Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh,
it's
she is.
Friday.
Hey.
And Mary right at the buzzer. Soon as I hit the live, Mary showed up, made it in there. She has power. Hope everybody's doing fantastic this Friday. We got the Skywalker still from A to Z Sports in the building. We got Authentic over here repping the Big Blue Giants, going to break down everything for this matchup Sunday. And of course, producer Jay, we told y'all it's time for a new intro. Here's season 5 of Pick Six Sports intro for this season. Let's go.
BJ Nix, are you here?
Present.
Do we
Present.
have Spoony, Timothy Spoony?
Present, sir.
Margaret and Mary. Do we have a Margaret and Mary?
Yes.
Cool.
And the
All right.
margaritas.
All class here. We're ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Who lost the football, and the Cowboys have it. It's Parsons on top of it.
We live, baby. It is week 1. We are here. We are officially through it. We are, man, I'm so excited. I'm jumbling words. I'm doing the whole 9. Man, I am just ready. You know, the long dog days of summer are behind us. We're getting some cooler temperatures out in East Texas. We're going to see
Not
some
here.
80s next. We got 80s coming next week over here in the 903. I hope it makes it up there where y'all at there in the DF dub. But it's starting to feel even like football outside for us. So, with that being said, settle in for us. Rock with us for about an hour or so as we get you set up for this matchup on Sunday Night Football. First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, we have Authentic. You might know him from Authentic in the Beard and the content they're doing over there on YouTube. He's a man of many hats, though. He is a man of many hats because if you're an old school hip hop head and the music he gets into, y'all gonna tell when he talks anyways. As he was talking about beforehand, he's just got that cadence. Great stuff over there too. You can check out him on Twitter as the name there. Check out some of that hip hop work, man. Authentic brother, how are you doing? Thank you for joining the show.
I'm doing good, man. Definitely appreciate y'all having me on. This is my first session. I'm going to be chopping it up with some other people outside of the NFC East, like not here in D.C., not in New York, because my co-host is actually a fan of the Washington Commanders, and I'm from D.C., but never was a fan of the Skins. That's an odd to my homie Big L one time, but yeah, man, I'm ready to talk some sports and get right to it, man. I think the Giants made a lot of moves this year. I'm excited about it. I know Cowboys made a lot of moves too, so it's going to be interesting to see this matchup week 1. I know y'all have dominated us for a good long time here, man. Dak Prescott 10-0 versus my New York Giants, so we got some revenge on the table here, man, that we need to eat in this game. And we'll see how it goes, man. I'm not extremely confident entering this matchup here, but I do like some of the upgrades my team has made in the offseason, especially through the draft. I'm looking forward to seeing what Jalen Hyatt can do. Looking forward to seeing what my man JMS can do at center. He got the starting job in camp and whatnot. And bringing in the big weapon, one of the biggest acquisitions in the whole offseason, Darren Waller. I think that's going to be amazing for the Giants. But we got a little bit of tough news today, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But, like I said, man, definitely looking forward to getting some revenge against y'all. Y'all have pretty much owned us for a long time here, man, and especially in the Daniel Jones era. So we looking for a little payback here.
No doubt. And I mean, look, right, it's 10 straight for that. But, rubber meets the road here, Scott. McCarthy's 0-3 in starters so far, so there's something's going to have to give this here week one. Sky, obviously everybody knows Skywalker Steel, A to Z Sports in the building, man. How you doing this Friday, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Also, my very first time gracing the Pick Six Sports program, and I support you guys a whole lot, man. I have Professor Rose on the show a lot. He's a moderator on A to Z in the morning, so definitely had to come through, show you guys some love. I'm excited for this matchup, and I know Cowboys Nation, Pick Six Sports, everybody out there, we're definitely excited for week one after not really getting a chance to see our guys out there in preseason. But as we've seen yesterday, just because you're out there in preseason don't mean nothing. Week one is a little weird, and I'm extremely confident, but you just never know with week one. That's why, like you said, 0-3, 10-0, something has to give here, but I still feel confident about this matchup, and we'll get into it, I'm sure.
No doubt, no doubt. Oh, everything going good over there, my guy, on this Friday?
Yes. Life's lovely. Excited for the football season kickoff. But I want to say real quick, if you haven't been tuned into A to Z Sports, you may have missed a big milestone, life achievement for our guy Skywalker Steel. So last weekend he was married. So congratulations to Mr. and Miss Steel. Big news. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Smart man to get it done before the season started. Good timing
quest
there.
for the ring is complete.
The quest for the ring is complete. I like that.
We got one more. We got one more in February we're trying to get.
Right. We got to start
saving the jokes.
Man, that's awesome. Spoony, how you doing over there, brother, in Brooklyn?
You know what it is. Me outside, respect. I'm a Cowboy fan in New York City, so they give me a little tough around here every time I come outside. But other than that, I'm beautiful. Everything's beautiful. Everything's fine. My anxiety is up right now because I'm so excited about this weekend. I'm excited about my sermon too later on. I can't wait to get to that. So
I can't
I'm glad
wait
to be here.
Yes. If you have not partaken in the Church of Cowboys Land of the Sermon of Spoony, stick around here tonight as he unveils the regular season edition of the Spoony Sermon. Dom out here, pointing these kids in the right direction. Hopefully it was great this week at school. How's it going for you this Friday, brother?
Man, the school week went by so fast. And as soon as I left the building, I was like, you know what? Normally I put on some George Strait, listen to a little country music. That's my genre. But man, I was rocking to this Round the Way. And I'm like, this guy Authentic, he reminded me a little bit of Common, a little bit of Joe Budden, but more of the Common. Man, I'm about to bring some more of this as soon as we get off the air here. So, man, it's good to grace this space with all you guys. But yeah, stay blessed. And man, I'm excited to get into this talk about Giants and Cowboys. Big time rivalry Sunday. Here we go.
10-4. And Mary at the buzzer didn't know she was going to have power or not, but she did have some power.
Yeah, no, I literally, right around the corner from my house, we were chilling, having fun, and then a bar right across the street, the whole street, power went out, driving down the street. It's dark. Can't see anything except your street lights. I didn't know if my power was going to be on either. And then boom, it was on. So I'm here. I just want to add also that I feel like I'm the wild child of the bunch. I'm the one that's always been crazy.
Very first time I met Mary, she was gone at Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, but Sky, you know what? I'm sorry. That's just always me.
No, I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was waiting for her to try to curve that. I was like, nah, don't do that.
That's just,
I get it. Margarita Mary. I get it now. I get it.
Yeah.
It all
DMV, John DMV, he texted me today. He's like, Spicy Margarita Mary is back. I'm like, yes, I am. Let's go.
Big
so here I
got
am.
O back up here. He's having some technical difficulties. Oh, better now?
Yeah, we're good. I could hear myself talking in the background, so it was like making me delay because I could hear myself like a second, so we're good.
Gotcha. All right, 10-4. All right, man. Everybody's in the building. Everybody's hit the like button as they came in here, and we've done all the formalities. Let's get into some football talk, right? And let's start with, I guess, Authentic here. I'm with you, Scott. I want to hear about this Waller situation. We'll start with some injuries. We got some injuries on both sides. Waller, of course, Authentic, and anything else injury-wise that you're looking at here for the Giants here on Friday.
I mean, we're coming into this game, relatively healthy here. And today the news came out after practice that Waller tweaked his hamstring. They said that he was kind of dealing with some soreness throughout the whole entire week. So it's weird that they just dropped that news on us today. Everybody knows that with the Giants, the complaint, especially from the fan base, has been the weapons surrounding Daniel Jones on this offense and the lack of productivity in the passing game. So Waller coming in here is supposed to kind of act as a wide receiver one. Y'all know we got Mike Kafka over here calling plays, former Kansas City quarterbacks coach and whatnot. So a lot of our philosophy is similar to what they do over there in Kansas City. And, the comparisons to Travis Kelce have been made all offseason. So coming into this game against the Dallas Cowboys, like, if we don't have our number one weapon out there, I know the fan base, it's going to hurt. It's going to, our confidence, we're going to lose a lot of faith coming into this game, and we're going to have to kind of operate the way we did last year, which I think we'll have to do some of that anyway, which would be, starting off with Saquon Barkley and using Daniel Jones' legs in the running game as well to try to get our yards. But it's alarming. I'm trying my best not to panic, you know what I mean? But this is just a couple of days before the game. And I know for Giants fans, seeing the Kansas City Chiefs last night and the debacle of a game that Kadarius Toney put up kind of made people start to feel a little bit, start feeling themselves a little bit, feeling like, we could go into this game with some confidence. We got rid of, all the baggage from a season before and whatnot. And, this injury news comes out, and I think it kind of just, like, tampers the expectations, brings everybody back down to earth. Because if we got to go out here with just Daniel Bellinger, especially with the Giants who were predicted to run a lot of 12 personnel this season, that's going to be real tough on us.
Right. And, interesting point there. You're talking about maybe back in the bag a little bit of Saquon to Daniel Jones's legs. Skywalker, we kind of used Donovan Wilson in that mode to kind of spy on Jones last year, but maybe he's not going to play either for us coming back from that strain.
Yeah, it's looking like he's out. He's doubtful right now. Didn't practice all week. I don't really expect him to play. And I had a question on the show earlier this morning of what would Marquise Bell do? He's supposed to be filling in potentially for the loss of Demo, right? Marvion Overshown, but he's also a safety, by nature. And he's likely your next man up if Donovan Wilson's out. So do you use Marquise Bell more as that safety valve, or do you use him as that DeMarvion Overshown replacement? So it'll be interesting to see. I think he has the athleticism to run with him, but he doesn't have the experience. And if you watch Dono in that first matchup, Daniel Jones didn't really run as much in the second, but in that first matchup, he ran a whole lot. You could see Dono playing that spy role. So who will play that spy role on Sunday is the question now.
Indeed. Now, obviously some other things here, offensive line-wise, Dom, right? I mean, looks like it's probably Tyler's not going to play. Tyron maybe will play. And then it turns into what we've all talked about all along. Who's going to be the guy that they plug in? Is it going to be Bass? Is it going to be Chuma Edoga? Or is it going to be Awesome Richards? Who do you think is going to go for Tyler, Professor O?
I still think he's going to play. So Pat Walker was on. I still do, yeah. Okay. Pat Walker was on A to Z Sports this morning and said that he's been working with Britt Brown on the cords, the resistance cords, the last 2 days, and obviously tomorrow is going to be the deciding day. If he goes on Saturday, even if it's in limited capacity, there's a pretty good shot they're going to test him Sunday before the game, and if he's good there, they're going to let him play. I just have this feeling he's going to go. I don't know why. Maybe it's a gut instinct. Maybe it's just me trying to wish it into existence, but I feel like Tyler's going to be a go. Tyron is the one out of the two, which is kind of feels weird saying this based on his injury history. I'll knock on wood real quick. He's the one that seems more likely to go. They're saying it was a minor injury, but we're also hearing that from the Giants camp with Waller that it's a minor injury. But, hamstrings and leg injuries, especially ankles, those things can kind of linger. So I could understand either side saying, let's hold them out for week one so we have them for the entire war, not really worry too much about the battle. But I feel like Tyron's going to go. I think Tyler's going to go. To answer your question, though, it'll be interesting. I don't think TJ Bass is really in consideration for the left guard position. It seems like it's going to be Awesome or Chuma Edoga, and it seems like it'd be Awesome based on what they're saying. But again, I just have this gut feeling based on kind of how things have gone so far that both are going to give it a go.
Man, it's just nervous, right? And Scott, we kind of talked about that right before, coming on of, man, it's a long season. And if it's on the cusp here for week one, where would you land on that, Dom? Like, you want a city? You want a plane? Where were you at when it comes here to Tyler Smith? If it's this kind of up against the wall right now.
You're muted.
But you got
Tom,
to unmute,
you're
though.
muted.
I'm all about the hope. I'm all about the prayer, and I gotta sip the Kool-Aid.
I love that.
Now,
The props ready to go.
I'm the guys that brought you Awesome Richards, NFL draft. thought the guy would be a great offensive tackle to develop behind Tyron Smith. But now we're talking about a guy who already showed you some hope coming into this season because of what he was able to do in the preseason games. But even with all that hope, even with all the prayer, even with soup in the Kool-Aid, I think the idea would be to give Chuma Adoga that chance to be able to see what he actually has, having that experience to be able to help the Cowboys solidify that interior as a depth piece. And who would have known that we would have been talking this talk already in the very first week and it not be the other Smith. It's the young one, Tyler Smith. So for me, I think you probably give Adoga that shot. I would rather, though, have Awesome do it. Just throw the young guy out there. You got him next to Biotish, and then you'll have Tyron next to him on his left. So see what you got there. But we shall see what's going to happen. Hopefully, Tyler can play because I do not want to enter this game seeing that Giants interior defensive line go against the inexperience of Awesome or what are we really expecting from already somewhat of a journeyman in Adoga?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I had mentioned this about last year. If you guys remember, we went into week 3 with Tyler Smith, who was playing his 3rd game ever at left tackle for the Cowboys, at least, without having any reps in the preseason or camp at left tackle, and Matt Fournier. And I'm just be honest with you. I would much rather, and this might sound crazy, but Edoga or Awesome Richards or TJ Bass than Matt Fournier. And the Cowboys seem to be able to run the ball well and do what they needed to do offensively. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a little nervous to have somebody else in there other than Tyler Smith. It's just to say that we can reach back in experience and say, hey, Connor McGovern, who he was solid. So I'm not really knocking Connor, but Connor McGovern, Matt Fournier, a rookie left tackle, did go up against a Wink Martindale defense and was able to still stay on task. The difference is the personnel is a bit more complete up front. So from a man-on-man aspect, it's going to be tough to deal with. But then you throw in what Wink does to your offensive line. If you get an inexperienced guy in there, which is why I think Dom is might be right here, they might try Edoga first because he's an experienced player. But if he doesn't hang in there, then you might have to throw in a young buck. I just worry if you do, are you now susceptible to getting tricked by Wink Martindale giving up easy pressures?
Yeah, good point. I have a question for Skywalker and Authentic, and I think this will be an interesting contrast based on how the Giants Nation feels coming into the season, coming off of last year, and how the Cowboys fan base does. And I think this is a really good question for Skywalker because he has the morning show. He has an open call-in line. He talks to different people every day of the week, and he's on Voch Lombardi's show, The Volume. Not Voch Lombardi's show, the show with Voch Lombardi, The Volume. So he hears it. Yeah, so he hears it, twice a day. So I want to start out with Authentic. Based on last season, get new coaching staff, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. Didn't really know what you had with Daniel Jones, and you made a playoff run, won a playoff game, got to the divisional round. Had a pretty good offseason. What's the pulse of the Giants fan base? Like, what are their expectations going into this season? What are you hearing when you talk to other people in the community and the fans, and as far as what their actual aspirations and goals are for this year? And then I want to hear the same thing from Skywalker. What the Cowboys pulse of the nation is, just to kind of get a contrast between the two teams entering Week 1.
Yeah. So for me, from what I'm seeing from the Giants fan base is like I'm one of the more rational Giants fans out there, and right now we've struggled. Okay, for 5 years we were one of the worst teams in the entire league, right? So we just got a sign of, hey, we're headed in the right direction here. You have the 9-7-1 season there, and we make the playoffs. We win a first-round playoff game. The fan base was extremely lit. Now, I think they forgot about how we exited the playoffs when we played the Philadelphia Eagles, and straight up got dog-walked in that game. So entering this season, Daniel Jones gets the contract. And I think that people are just glossing over what happened against Philly, trying to ride high on what happened against the Minnesota Vikings, who I look at them as, especially defensively, not a great ball club. They had 11 games where they won by 1 score. The Giants had 7 games where we won by 1 score. So these are 2 teams to me that were, the beneficiary of winning the close games. And that does show a testament to the coaching staff. Brian Dable came in here and definitely handled business. So for Giants fans right now, and I won't say this is for me personally, but the pulse of the whole Giants nation right now is 10 wins, another playoff win. People are looking to stack on what we did last year. But I think what people are kind of overlooking as well is the schedule last season was very, very, very in the favor of the New York Giants. You know, we had a couple of games up front where it was just like, man, I couldn't see no way we didn't win 8 games last year. Then we surprised teams like the Ravens. We surprised teams like the Packers, and we saw ourselves in the playoffs. Now, you look at this year with the NFC East going up against the AFC East this year, that makes it much tougher. The Giants have a stretch here. You know, we play the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, opening day here on Sunday night coming up. And then we have a stretch here where we don't play another NFC East game until week 7 against Washington. We got to play teams like Seattle, San Francisco, the Miami Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills all back to back to back. So for me, I'm looking at this Dallas Cowboys matchup as one of the most important games of the year. A lot of people don't look at week 1 like that. But for me, I'm looking at week 1 like that. I predicted us around 8 wins probably this season, but I think more people are looking at the Giants being a 10, 11-win team. And I think if that's the case, you're going to have to see Daniel Jones elevate his play, and you're going to have to see these weapons come in here and really get to business early. I've seen the Giants try to stack up on weapons in 2 previous seasons leading up to this one. I'd say in the past decade that off the top of my head, 2017, when they brought in Brandon Marshall, everyone was talking about the New York Giants got the best wide receiver core in the league, yada, yada, yada. Odell Beckham, Brandon Marshall, they're going to be able to go out here. Sterling Shepard, they're going to be able to be a high-powered offense. And that year was awful. That was the year that Ben McAdoo ended up getting fired. The Giants won like 4 games, I believe it was. So I know what it's like to get hype about weapons and then watch it kind of stutter and a little bit fall out of place. Same thing happened when we brought in Kenny Galladay. You pay that guy $72 million. You drafted Kadarius Toney with Micah Parsons right there on the board. The New York Giants did trade back. I'm still a little salty about that. And we draft Kadarius Toney. We bring him in.
I love that, by the way.
From week 1, it just really was not right. You just knew something was not right. Kenny Galladay's on the sidelines week 2, screaming at Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett. I was at that game, and I'm just looking at this like, where's the chemistry that we were looking for here from the wide receiver core? Bringing in guys like Golden Tate. Before that, we had Cody Latimer. So the complaint has been the Giants don't have weapons. The Giants don't have offensive line. They're spending draft capital trying to build this offensive line, and it really just hasn't worked. So now we have a very similar unit from last year entering this year, praying to God that guys like Evan Neal can get it together and we can have 2 bookend tackles and keep Daniel Jones upright. So the pulse is high right now as far as the Giants community goes. I try to kind of, bring them back down to earth just a little bit, but I do think it's going to start with the division. The Giants were 1-4-1 last year in the division. You can't get to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons with just 1 division win. So I don't see that happening. They're going to have to go out here and try to put up a good contest against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday.
Appreciate that. Sky, Cowboys Nation, what's the vibe?
I don't got to tell you guys, but it's a split, divided fan base, which to me is wild. You've got the half of the fan base who is leaning into how the season finished last year without really any context. There's half the fan base that is riding no excuses, right? That's the term. They don't care what happens. Screw it. No excuses. Get it done. Then there's the other half of the fan base that's riding a little high on how the general manager and Jerry Jones and president, right? He's everything. How they've moved. The front office has moved differently this year. That's me. I feel more optimistic because they have moved differently than they've moved in the last 15 years. They don't normally go out and get you a Brandon Cooks, get you a Stephon Gilmore, draft a nose tackle early. They don't do these things back in the days, right? Or the early back in the days. They didn't do that over the last 15 years. So they're moving different. I think they have the coaching on all 3 levels, special teams, offense, defense, and they've clearly got the talent on defense and offense as well. And you're not a perfect team. It was Dan Campbell, I think, who actually brought this up a few weeks back. No team's perfect. Every team has some holes and has some issues here or there, but it's about, do you have the people in the building to help overcome that? And I do think that McCarthy, right, calling the plays now, a guy that's not – trying to be a head coach in this league, a guy that's already been around the block, been to 5 NFC championship games, won a Super Bowl, knows how to take a quarterback who is an upper echelon quarterback and get the best out of him with weapons around him. So I think Cowboys Nation should absolutely feel so much better than they felt in years past. You went out and got Brandon Cooks. We're not rolling out James Washington, right, and Dennis Houston. And no offense to Michael Gallup on 1 ACL, like that's not your receiving core no more. You don't got Anthony Brown and boss man not fat out there at cornerback 2 anymore. You've got a legit defensive MVP, future Hall of Famer at cornerback 2 now in the 3rd year of Dan Quinn. So there's way more to be optimistic about. But we're talking about the Cowboys. We're talking about the Cowboys. It's been 27, 28 years since a Super Bowl. So you're going to have half the fan base that does not care about all of the good things that are happening in the offseason. They just want to basically wake them up when the Cowboys are in the Super Bowl. You're going to miss the ride. You're going to miss the ride. And when you miss it, please don't come back. Stay off the train. Please stay off the train, because I think we're moving a little bit differently this year. And you should be able to go out there like Spoony up there in New York wearing this cowboy hat and say it with your chest. You should. I'm much like Authentic. In years past, I wasn't. In years past, last year, shouts out to my bro Vach. Vach was telling me we going to win. I'm like, Vach, I don't trust this offense. I don't trust this coordinator. I don't trust that the quarterback can overcome the coordinator and what he's been presented. I just don't. And I'm going to keep it a buck. I didn't feel good about this team winning last year. This is different. They're moving different. It's okay to say I feel different because it is different.
You're right.
Yeah,
I agree.
I like that. Authentic. We got a couple questions from the chat I want to get through really quick, and then I have a question, and I want to make sure everybody in the panel has a chance to ask you, and then I have another question for Sky too, real quick for you, Authentic. And if you don't have an answer for this one, that's totally fine. Our guy Toxic Tom says, I like Waller, but what New York Giant wide receiver do you see taking that number one? Just give me the damn ball, roll in your offense.
That is a good question. Like I said a little earlier, it's going to operate, and I don't think Waller is quite a Travis Kelce. I talked to my co-host about this yesterday on the show, but I think it's going to operate like that, where Waller is going to act as wide receiver one. I wouldn't expect him to just be in line. They're going to use him outside. You saw it in the preseason drive when Daniel Jones was 8 of 9. They ran a concept where they had a screen to the left side, and if they had the one-on-one matchup outside with Darren Waller, they hit him on the slant, and he picked up about 8 to 10 yards. But to not like dodge the question and tell you who that wide receiver is going to be, the give me the damn ball wide receiver, I think it's going to ultimately be Jalen Hyatt, right? But how long is the buffer going to take for him to really get his feet wet and really, show that he can be a dominant wide receiver in the NFL? We know that the knock on Jalen Hyatt coming out of Tennessee is, hey, can he run these routes? Can he do these things? I don't know if I expect him to be that, wide receiver leading the room as far as yards go and receptions go. That's been Darius Slayton for most of the years since he's been here. And I expect Darius Slayton to play that same exact role and lead the Giants in yards again this season, to be honest, with a little bit of help from guys like Paris Campbell. But I do think it'll be a pretty even distribution as far as the wide receivers go. Getting Sterling Shepard back out here as a good depth piece and utilizing Paris Campbell and then Wan'Dale Robinson when he comes back healthy as well.
Appreciate that. And then our guy Gregory asked, there we go. Authentic, how do you feel about the Giants' 2 rookie cornerbacks covering Lamb and Cooks?
I feel horrible about it. It was on my notes from the show
smart
from
man.
yesterday. And it's, you can't find me nobody that's had success with 2 rookie cornerbacks. You could point to the Seattle Seahawks, which I've seen some people talking about. They had 1 rookie last year, and they had a guy in his 3rd year, and definitely a very youthful secondary out there. But putting 2 rookies out there is very interesting. One of them a 6th-round pick, and then you got Deontay, who was drafted early on. I'm very worried about it. I don't know how long they're going to run this type of scheme where they have a Dory Jackson in the slot. I think this might be like catered to the teams who have dominant slot wide receivers. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb being the most dominant slot wide receiver in the league last year with Cooper Kupp being injured. But we got to play both those teams this year. We got to play the Rams as well. So in games where, the number 1 wide receiver for the opposing team is going to be in the slot, I think you're going to see a Dory there. But I'm more comfortable having a Dory Jackson out there on the edge. Maybe just shadowing CeeDee Lamb in this game and just going wherever CeeDee Lamb goes. But having 2 rookie cornerbacks out there is not going to be a great thing for the New York Giants. But we've dealt with bad cornerback play for a long time here. Cornerback 2 in New York has been a problem for a couple of years, dating back to when we had Isaiah Yadam or Isaac Yadam on the roster for a while there. James Bradbury didn't have too much help until we brought a Dory Jackson out here. So it's been tough for the New York Giants. And I'm hoping that the secondary can step up because I do like our safety unit. Xavier McKinney is definitely a dog. He's one of the top safeties in the league. But you guys, as far as Dallas goes, and I'll just throw this out there real quick, you guys present a very interesting matchup because you guys got a lot of weapons. Steele brought up, Brandon Cooks. I'm super high on Brandon Cooks. I've been talking about Brandon Cooks for 3 years. This guy has 6 1,000-yard seasons out of 9 seasons in the league. He's going to try to do it with 6 1K seasons on 5 different teams, which will be the most in NFL history. I think it's a great upgrade. You should probably see Dak Prescott get back to his normal ways of what you saw a year ago when he put up, I want to say it was either 34 or 37 touchdowns when he had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So, I'm worried. Those are the biggest worries for me because when you try to tackle all of Dallas Cowboys' weapons out there, I think it's going to leave a lane for Jake Ferguson to be able to eat as well because there's going to be a lot of attention on everybody else. So I'm going to see how, Xavier McKinney reacts to that. I think these two young corners are going to be out there on an island by themselves pretty much. And then the other question is going to be, is Wink Martindale going to be aggressive? Because we're not known to get a bunch of pressure with our front four like that. Wink normally has to send blitzes and send extra men. How's that going to work? Is Isaiah Simmons going to have a role here covering the tight end? I'm not too sure, but there's going to be a lot of one-on-one matchups that I think favor the Dallas Cowboys in this game, and I'm hoping that these weapons and these new acquisitions can come in and step up. We got Bobby O at linebacker as well.
Can I ask Authentic a question real quick?
Go for it.
I'm Wink. To me, I like Wink. I like Wink since he's been back in Baltimore. I love an aggressive defensive coordinator. He kind of reminds me of Rob Ryan, Rex Ryan when they were at the top of their game. I've been studying Wink for a while, and it seems like it doesn't matter who he has. He's going to be a madman and just blitz, right? But have you seen or heard anything out there in New York where, okay, we got Azeez Ojulari, we got Tibbs, we got Dexter Lawrence, and you guys got a better defensive line. Now, do you think he'll dial it back and try to get home with 4? Because that just seems like that's not Wink. I feel like he just is going to blitz anyway, but maybe he had to, like you said. So is there any feeling that maybe he could reel it in a little bit because he got better rushers?
Yeah, 100%. If you look at the 2 last playoff games the Giants played there, Wink was not his, doing his true type of blitzing. But I'm like waiting for the blitz in the playoffs, and it just didn't come. So I do think that Wink, he has shown the ability to try to adjust in games. I prefer the more aggressive Wink Martindale. I'm like, man, we don't got the talent out there, then send the damn house, try to get to the quarterback. But in the matchup against you guys, that makes it very tricky because Dak Prescott's really good at getting the ball out quick. We know Dak gets that ball out in under 2.5 seconds pretty much his whole career. So I'm kind of scared of that a little bit. Like, is Dak going to be able to dice us up with these new weapons? And then you got to worry about the back end, a lot of one-on-one coverage and whatnot. I don't know if that's going to be the formula for this game, but we know Wink Martindale loves to send the house, man. That's his thing, and he's creative with that front as well. He'll do different disguises to show different things, and then he's going to send different players. So I think he's got to be tricky. He's got to have a couple tricks up his sleeve for this game, and hopefully we can surprise y'all. I don't even know what Dallas is going to come out and show offensively. We know McCarthy, when he was in Green Bay, I want to say it was 11 personnel that he ran a ton over there, but I don't know if that matches what you guys do. How much are they going to commit to the run? It should be a really interesting game. I think the Giants got to find a way, and Wink Martindale really has to find a way that if you're going to be able to send these blitzes, then make sure that you tame Dallas when it comes to the explosive plays, and Tony Pollard's one of the best at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the interesting part because for me, in looking at it, I think where the Cowboys are going to change, one of the things they're changing is the short passing game to the running backs is going to be extension of their run game now. So now you're getting into, if he is sending the blitz, how is that coverage going to match if you get Pollard out here on a wheel route or something like that on a one-on-one with the Bobby O, or Isaiah Simmons? How is that going to look at that standpoint? And that could be the factor of the game that maybe kind of tips it a little bit. And I think that's the number one matchup as we're talking about it. I've kind of talked about it all week. I think it's the Giants front four versus the Cowboys offensive line. If Wink with those young guys says, hey, look, I need these front four, and maybe I'll just send one. Not like Wink, but I might just send 5. I'm not going to send everybody. If they can get home, now we're looking at Dallas possibly missing Tyler Smith. We'll wait and see. Says he thinks he's going to play, so we'll wait and see. But they are missing that. How does Wink eyes light up and want to really go after it, or does he say no? Send that 4. Because none of your guys played the starting 4 both games against us last year. It was always kind of a little bit. This guy was missing. That guy was missing.
Azeez Ojulari, especially.
Yeah, Ojulari was missing. Right. Yes. So it's been. You haven't seen all 4 against us, and I think if they're able to get home with the front 4, that helps them, and it can make things possibly hard for the Cowboys. But now I think on the other hand, if the Cowboys are able to handle that, now Wink has to think in the back of his head, okay, I'm not getting home. They're still getting off. I got to start sending pressure, and then if the Cowboys start scoring off of that, now can Daniel Jones with all the newly fine-tuned weapons, can they keep up against our defense and keep the points rolling?
And there's going to be an emphasis on trying to get to the quarterback. In 2 games last year against the Dallas Cowboys, the Giants came away with 0 sacks in those games. So there's got to be an emphasis to get to the quarterback. That, to me, the trenches are definitely going to be an important matchup. But to me, it's the one matchup that I think it favors the Giants a little bit. Our defensive front is healthy. Dexter Lawrence can pretty much wreak havoc on most offensive lines outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. Jason Kelce just seems to have his number. But outside of that, he seems to wreak havoc on most offensive lines. And Leonard Williams, same thing goes for him. But also the Giants struggle stopping the run. 24th ranked run defense in the league last year. They were allowing 146 yards per game. And looking at the two Dallas matchups, y'all put up 345 yards against us in those two matchups and just a ton of offense. I think it was almost 800 yards of offense in the two matchups. So I don't want to see the Giants try to get into a shootout. To me, the biggest matchup is our defense trying to stop your offense. And the upgrades that y'all have made with the weapons, I think that presents a really tricky thing for the New York Giants. But the injuries up front in the interior offensive line, I forget what side it is of the offensive line for you. I think is that the right side y'all are dealing with?
It's the left
side
side.
y'all are dealing with injuries.
Left.
So we got to try to exploit that and try to get to the quarterback on that side.
I have one question for Authentic as well. I've heard that you have a rookie center.
Yeah.
Can we have some details about what you think about him and how you think he might do? Because from what I've heard, not from what I've heard, from what happened, Cowboys gave up 8 sacks last year to y'all in 2 games. And
I think y'all got 8 sacks. Yeah, y'all got 8 sacks.
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say gave up, but you gave up 8 sacks. Yeah. So in general, that's, as opposed to all the other parts of your O-line, what do you think about the center?
So, I could kind of compare it to the expectations of what we had for Evan Neal last year. Granted, John Michael Smith wasn't a first-round draft pick. I feel like we got him for a steal later on in the draft, which is amazing.
I liked him.
But with Evan Neal, he really, really fell flat last year. He was ranked by PFF the 80th ranked offensive tackle in the entire league, which is really bad. So we're worried about that side of the line in a major way. Now, with JMS, he's not a big stature type of center. So I think if there is a way to beat him, it'll be with the power to bull rush right at him, just go right at him, try to knock him over. But in the preseason, he showed to be pretty durable. And the fact that the New York Giants were just willing to let John Feliciano just go and, replace him with the rookie, I think speaks a lot of volume for John Michael Smith. I think he's going to come in here and he's going to be serviceable. I don't think he's something we'll have to worry about. Now, the guys next to him, those are the ones you really got to worry about. The Giants' interior offensive line has some problems there. And those two guys were both on the roster last year. They were both starters for the most part. It's Ben Bredesen on the left side. It's Mark Lewinsky on the right side. And we got Joshua Zidu, who's kind of playing like swing guard in a way that they're trying to find a way to bring him in the lineup. He's a bigger stature kind of guy, but doesn't have the experience. He was a rookie just last year. So if the Cowboys are going to try to look at a way to exploit the Giants' offensive line, I think it'll start by, first of all, the right tackle. Evan Neal has trimmed down. He's bulked up as far as muscle goes, lost some of that fat, but he has trouble dealing with the edge. And you saw it with DeMarcus Lawrence in the last matchup that he went up against Evan Neal. I want to say it was 3 sacks, 5 pressures against him. It was Evan Neal's worst game. Evan Neal talks about it all the time. He spoke on it this offseason about, hey, man, that was my worst game. I got to find a way to get better. So I think you start there. And then interior-wise, you got to try to find a way to get to the guards and whatnot. And, left side, man, Andrew Thomas, he's going to have it locked down. But you guys, last year, y'all sent Micah Parsons on Andrew Thomas for most of the game. Y'all didn't move him around like y'all tend to do in other matchups. So I'm looking to see what y'all do with that, to see if y'all are going to move him around, because I don't want to see Micah Parsons going up against Evan Neal. I'd rather see y'all best versus our best and let the rest, trickle down.
Yeah, I think the mouse in the house, when I was doing my research and watching the tape from last year, was Glowinski. He gave up 6, I think, pressures it was in the 2 games from the interior. And, you never want to see that. And you mentioned power for JMS, and Hankins is available now. And you're familiar with Hankins. That was your guy, right? For years down there in New York, or up there in New York. So, you'll have Big Hank and Mozzie kind of getting that push and pull with JMS. But I tell you this, you mentioned you don't want to see Micah over there, is that what you said? Or you do want to see him over there?
No, I'd rather see him go straight up against Andrew Thomas rather than be moved around. If as a Giants fan, as a Cowboys fan, probably a different thing for y'all.
Yeah, because he has some good success over there, and here's why I'm actually okay with him playing over there, because I don't like the matchup of D-Law on Andrew Thomas. So if you put D-Law over there, I think Andrew Thomas can neutralize him. And if you put Mike on Evan Neal, you can say, yeah, that's mouse in the house. You're absolutely right. But in my opinion, D-Law on Evan Neal was kind of mouse in the house, and we've seen that already in the 2 matchups. So I think when it comes to Micah Parsons moving him around, I would think it would be on the interior, getting after the middle of that line with the rookie center and the 2 guards that aren't, the greatest. So what you might see, and I'm giving a little bit away here, you might see a little bit of LVE doing some
great
on edge,
and LVE
got Micah Parsons roaming around the middle. Yeah,
LVE has lost some weight, right? He's gotten like
LVE on the edge, Don.
I don't like it. But
I know.
decoy wise, I'm okay with it. If it's decoy.
Yeah, I like that.
I know, Dom. We kind of giving it away. But he slimmed up. He looked faster when I was down there. So we'll see what happens.
And to be honest,
I want to say real quick too. One of the comments that you made about your center is really, I think it's a good time to segue this because we're talking about what happens if our left guard's out. But Tyler Biotis is a Pro Bowler, right? He's coming off a Pro Bowl season, and he had a really interesting comment to our girl Aisha Morrison. Shout out to Aisha out there. So she was talking to Tyler Biotis at practice and asked him. She started to talk about the interior front of what the Giants are able to present with Dexter Lawrence coming off of a 40-plus pressure season, playing 0 and 1 tech, which is absolutely absurd. He only had 3 pressures against the Cowboys in 2 games, but every other game he basically just wreaked havoc against everybody he went against, like Authentic said. And she brought up his name, and then also Leonard Williams, and then said, I'm not even in the mood to talk about them. And Tyler Biotis has been super chippy this season, especially in training camp. Tyler Biotis is the dude stepping up, getting in fights, getting in scuffles. He just kind of has this air to him that's different this year. I don't know if it's the Pro Bowl. I don't know if it's the looming contract that's coming up all season, whatever it is. But he just has some chippiness to him. And when Aisha said, I'm not in the mood to talk about them, he said, I am, like, excited. So I just feel like it's just worth mentioning. Matchup. Again, he's not exclusively going to go against him, but I feel like that was worth mentioning because that might be one of the battles that tips the game in either favor. I did want to ask this question. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Sky. Talk on it.
No, that's my big matchup. Dexter Lawrence versus Tyler Biotis. I think it was 1-1. I think Biotis got the best of him in the first matchup, and I think Dexter Lawrence won most of the reps in the second matchup. So I think that's why you see Biotis with that chip, like, oh yeah, I'm ready. Because he got me a little bit in the Thanksgiving Day game. But I think that's your main matchup right there. If Dexter Lawrence dominates that battle, the Cowboys offense won't be able to stay on track like it wants to. So you got to be able to keep Dexter at bay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Agree.
So question for the chat, and I'm going to let both Skywalker and Authentic talk about this real quick. Shout out to Brother L. He said to both of you, thoughts on who has more of the advantage if the weather is bad? Sky, you want to touch on it first?
I like, man, that's tough because I was just about to talk about scheme, but shoot, Dayball has a nice horizontal scheme too. So when you think about weather, you think about not throwing the ball deep. You know what I mean? And we have the deep threats in Brandon Cooks. They have Jalen Hyatt, but Jalen Hyatt's probably still getting used to things. Brandon Cooks is a staple of this offense this year, so we know they're going to try to get him involved deep. So that's a good one. I don't know that. Look, our offense is better, I think. So just naturally, no matter whether they're playing in the parking lot, whether they're playing on the moon, as Jason Garrett used to say, whether it's rain or whether it's dry, I think the offense from player for player is better. But Dayball's scheme is so horizontal that I don't think it would be a bad thing for them either. So I don't know if there's a crazy advantage with the weather. The Cowboys run the ball well. They don't stop to run that well. So maybe that's where you got it at. But we don't. It's not Zeke this year, so there's question marks at the running back, right? Everybody has all these questions because Zeke's not here, and we're dealing with some offensive line issues up front on the left side. But that's a good one. I might have to think a little bit harder, but I don't think there's much of a difference if it rains or it doesn't rain.
I think the one thing that benefits the New York Giants is that we have a true mobile quarterback who, we do design runs and we run with him. So it's already a part of our scheme. So I think like if this game gets to be just down to the trenches and just running the ball, and I'm not saying this like it favors the Giants for a win, but I think that if the weather's bad out there, I'm going to be kind of smiling like, yeah, this might favor us to have a better chance in this game just a little bit, simply off the fact of Daniel Jones being a runner. And with the tape out there, I know teams are going to be looking for that a lot more this year. The boots, the read option that we ran a lot last year, and a ton of design quarterback runs. And it seems like Brian Daboll has taught Daniel Jones that, hey, if the read is not there, just put the ball down and get running. So I think that if the weather is really bad, I don't think light rain is going to really hurt anybody, to be honest. But you guys are trying to stretch the field. I look at the Dallas Cowboys as a more high-potency, high-powered type of offense that relies more on big plays than the New York Giants do. Like you said, we move a lot more horizontal. A lot of our passing schemes are more short to intermediate. Can't forget Daniel Jones was at the bottom of the league when it comes for ADOT and yards per attempt. So the short passing game, I think, favors us, and I think the rushing attack will favor us as well. With the question marks, especially, can Tony Pollard handle the workload of being the number one running back over there in Dallas?
And
This
also,
is a good question. I
special
know that
teams
you guys
matter.
talked about it. Go ahead, Nick.
Wait. Special teams
Go ahead.
matter.
Go.
And if it's going to be raining and wind whipping around, and we got Brandon Arbery out here, I'm already nervous about Brandon. I don't want to be more nervous Sunday night if the winds start whipping up there in MetLife.
For me, my point is that you, as the Cowboys, you have a defense for the past 2 years that led the league in turnovers. And slippery balls lead to turnovers. And the Giants can definitely give us turnovers. So we can catch them. We can catch them. We can grab them. We can dive on the floor for them. So let's just do it.
That's a really good point you make. You know, Dallas 2 years in a row has led in takeaways, first time since like the 70s or something like that.
Steelers,
but you also got to take into consideration the New York Giants. We didn't turn the ball over at all last year. You know, we had our quarterback had the best touchdown interception ratio in the entire league. He only lost 2 fumbles last year. Saquon Barkley has, I think, only lost 1 or none fumbles in his entire career. So, you know, we're not a turnover type of team anymore, I'll say.
Yo, I don't know what Dayball has in his teachings, but what he was able to do with Daniel Jones and protecting the rock. You see it, and when he steps up, he has 2 hands, and he's kind of doing that over move there, and then he's right back into throwing motion, or he's taking off. I just commend him. I'm a big fan.
And listen, to give Jason Garrett some props here, it started with Jason Garrett. You know, the Daniel Jones narrative, you know, of turnovers, it really stopped after his rookie year for real. Like, he had a ton of interceptions. He had 19 fumbles his rookie year in 12 games. 11 of them were lost. 6 of them were scooped and scored for touchdowns for the other team, right? He comes back the next year, but he did have 24 touchdowns that year in the 12 games, right? He had a couple of big games. He had a big game against Washington, 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns against the Detroit Lions, 4 touchdowns against the Jets, right? Now, he comes back the next year, and Jason Garrett and them are trying to put the emphasis on protect the ball. And it kind of turned Daniel Jones into this conservative type of quarterback, you know, and he lost his moxie. He lost his mojo. Garrett. He didn't want to throw the ball down the field. Now, Brian Dable and them get here, and they just kind of like stack on that, and they make it better. Right. I think what they're trying to do now is pull out some of the things that Pat Shurmur had with Daniel Jones, which was throwing the ball down the field, and that's why they brought these weapons in. So the turnover thing is important, and I think one turnover could lose you this game. If the Giants go out here and the Cowboys can get a takeaway, that's going to put the Giants in a major hole. I don't want to see Daniel Jones trying to climb back in this game, down by 2 scores, trying to throw the ball when the Cowboys are expecting it. We saw a turnover in each of the last 2 games like that from Daniel Jones, and I think that's a recipe for disaster for us. We got to go out here, get the early lead, and take care of the football.
And to touch on Knicks, where you talk about special teams, you're worried about Brandon Aubrey, and I know we give a hard time on the Washington Live show to our kick returner, Kevontae Turpin, but he did have some success against the Giants earlier in that year. And when I was doing my study on them last year, I don't know, authentic, maybe you can assure this or not, but they struggled in kick and punt return coverage last year, and we saw it. I think it was Turpin who had a nice punt return in that game that set him up for good field position. So if it is a bit slippery, if he can catch the ball, because he's got to be able to catch the ball, right? Then maybe he might be able to take something to the crib for the first time in his NFL career if guys are falling all over the place.
Oh, he hasn't taken one to the house yet?
No.
Not in the regular season.
Not in regular season, yeah.
Not in regular season.
He's a dynamic returner, and I think you could utilize him in the passing game too. You get the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker, you know. So we got to keep our eyes on him. Our punter has not been great the past year. I want to say he was a rookie last year. Gilliam, they call him the Scottish Hammer, but he's got a big leg, but not very accurate. So sometimes he muffs punts and doesn't give you the best type of field position and whatnot. Kicker wise with Graham Gano, I think we're that's a check mark right there for the Giants one time. Yeah. But outside of that, our special teams definitely struggle, and I don't know who's going to be returning kicks for us this year, to be honest.
Okay.
Interesting.
What was the question you had?
The running back?
It could be Eric Gray. He was returning kicks, but when it comes to punts, they were trying Sterling Shepard out a little bit, which I'm like, man, we had Jamison Crowder in camp. They cut him. He's now a Washington Commander, and they brought him in for special teams. So I'm not too sure who's going to be that main guy. And can't forget they tried Adoree Jackson out there last year, and he got smacked and ended up injuring his knee and being out for a couple of weeks. So I know they're not going to mess around with Adoree Jackson.
We'll say Beasley can do it, but I know y'all got him on IR, short-term
IR.
He's out. Beasley's
out as well.
He's going to be out. I was hoping he could get the revenge game too.
No,
Fair.
Yeah,
tired
right.
of Beasley getting revenge. He got us in 2019 with the Bills.
He got
and-
us with the
and-
Bills, but
yeah,
Oh,
we're
he
good.
did. You already got his revenge.
That's where
Get
it
him
ends.
up out
That's
of
where it
here.
ends.
It
Do you
tore us
guys
up.
remember the primetime game against the Giants, 4th and 15? Cole Beasley back at the end zone,
Oh,
walking
Yes.
down.
Oh,
Yes.
of course.
That one
course.
haunts me. That one haunts me.
Honestly, that was one of
Great.
Dak's best throws of his career. I mean, Dak's made a lot of throws, but that throw was incredible. Rolling out to the left, across his body, hit him. I mean, Cole laid out for it, but it was a perfect throw, and especially at a big time moment. So
Yeah,
I have a
Olivier
question
Vernon,
for-
I remember it got pressure on him, and he
Mhm.
spun out of the pocket.
Yes.
Last play of the game.
Mhm.
It was a great play from Dak. You want to see more of that from him. I feel like you're not seeing
Yes.
that mobility as much as you were a couple of years ago. I'm looking to see if Dak can get
Well,
back to that.
You're
true
right.
form.
No, I think we all as Cowboys fans want to see a little bit more of that from him in general. Not too much, but we definitely want to see more of that, especially when it's obvious that he should do it. Definitely.
I think it was scheme. I think schematically he just wasn't able to do it, and he talked about it. And I shouldn't say able to do it. You can do it whenever you want to do it, right? But it has to be in the confines of the offense. Sometimes, when you break the pocket like this, the scramble drills are baked into the plays, right? And he mentioned early on, and no one ever talks about this, but he mentioned early on, hey, this offense will allow me to run more. And he doesn't mean design runs. He means if it's not there, I can take off. And to go all the way back, and I don't mean to go all the way back, to what you said, Nix, about dumping it off if Wink Martindale is going to be aggressive. If you go watch both of these games, whether it be with Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott, the emphasis on the swing pass, on the check down or whatever, was not there because of our design of our offense was to read it deep and then come back down. Where the foundation of the West Coast offense is the short intermediate stuff. And there's a saying that says touchdown or check down. So yeah, if Wink wants to blitz a lot, dump that thing off the Deuce Vaughn, dump it off the TP. And if it's not there, Dak, I think you'll see Dak pull the ball down and run more or scramble more because you have horizontal, right? So we're running across to where I can get it to somebody, not sending 4 verts down. Now what? What am I supposed to do here? So just something to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
And even to that point, right. Another layer, because I'm with you. I think it was more about the scheme and what was going on, some of that with Dak, and also the injury. And for the first time in 3 years, first time in 3 years, he's not rehabbing an injury coming back into the season. So that's a big check mark there. But we've seen even the vanilla stuff that we're getting to see in preseason. I mean, we just saw a lot of play action bootlegging, getting into the tight ends, different things like that. And I think that's going to be a very refreshing thing. And we know Dak can do those things, are doing well, and him being healthy with this, as you said, touchdowns or checkdowns, baby, and they're built in that way. Is going to be very intriguing. I think that's probably the most exciting things we talk about this side of the fan base you were talking about earlier, Sky. I look at all the positive side of things, not just the end. That's what's really in it for us, is just simply this offense working in that way that we've been, kind of banging the table about and wanting to see. And now Sunday night, we finally get to see it on full display, not the stripped down version. And that's pretty exciting.
Yes, 100%.
Dom, you got a question?
I have a question as well. Dom, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. This is kind of one of those situations where we all know the old saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And, there's nobody that knows your actual team better than you, but you also tend to look over the other shoulder and look at the enemy that's coming. So I'll actually want you guys to kind of flip it. And y'all are both sound-minded, even type of guys who follow your teams. You're not sipping the Kool-Aid too much. You're not a homer. You're pretty fair and balanced. So what I would like to hear from Steele and also you, Authentic, flip hats for a second. So Authentic, you Mr. Cowboys guy. Steele, you're actually Giants guy. What's one offensive and one defensive key to victory for your team?
I'll start.
All right.
Good one.
For if I'm a Cowboys fan, you got to get pressure on Daniel Jones, number 1. And 2, you have to contain him. You have to be able to stop what Saquon Barkley does while making sure that Daniel Jones can't sneak out on those boots and those read options. That's number 1. Offensively, I think you got to attack this secondary. You got 2 young cornerbacks out there, and I just expect a lot of man coverage in this situation here from the New York Giants. So I would early and often test these young quarterbacks. try to set up some one-on-one matchups, figure out if the New York Giants are a man by using some pre-snap motion and whatnot, and try to get your throws down the field to guys like Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb. I've seen CeeDee Lamb win on those deep crossing routes so many times. I think you got to try to attack this secondary, and Dak's going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly. I think it starts up front with you guys, but more importantly, take those shots, man. Like, if I'm a Dallas Cowboys coach or fan, I'm going right at the New York Giants early and often. I'm throwing the ball down the field. I'm letting them know right off the bat that we're going to stretch the field, and then once they try to adjust to that, I'm going to bring in Tony Pollard, and I'm going to run the hell out of the football.
Okay.
If I'm a Giants fan, defensively, I'm testing. I know this is going to sound crazy because you got a Hall of Famer up there and possibly definitely two of them. I'm testing the offensive line. This is an offensive line that has a potential rookie or Chima Edoga at left guard, offensive line that has a guy in Tyron Smith who has an ankle issue right now, doesn't know if his mobility will be the same. Terrence Steele, my cousin, right, just getting back from his ACL. Zach Martin hasn't really played a whole lot, even though he's Zach Martin, right? This offensive line hasn't been played together just quite yet. In fact, ever. Right? We've never seen this exact offensive line play in a game. So I'm testing them right away, especially with the injuries on the other side. So that'll be the key to victory. If you can get at this offensive line, which is obviously going to affect the quarterback and affect the run game, you can stay in this game and try to win it at the end. On the other side of the ball for the offense, if I'm a Giants fan, offensively, I'm trying to get as much movement as possible pre and post snap. It was one of the most, if I'm not mistaken, actually the most successful thing that the Giants did last year for Daniel Jones was pre-snap motion combined with play action. When he did that, he averaged about 8 or so yards per attempt, and his quarterback rating was 118. So one thing that I noticed the Cowboys struggle with over the years, it's not even just last year, is a lot of that pre-snap motion stuff and that after snap action. The Eagles like to do it a whole lot. You get the linebackers thinking, you get the defensive end holding for a little bit. You get Trayvon Diggs running through the trash, and that's one thing that Daboll and Kafka are good at. They have a incredible scheme pre-snap, and then post-snap they will have you looking one way, and next thing you know, Daniel Bellinger is slipping out underneath, and you got a 20-yard pass. So I would be on that every single. I don't care if you say I know it's coming. You just got to know where I'm going with it. Because that is, in my opinion, the only way to slow down the speed of the Cowboys defense in the pass rush. Obviously, though, you can't do any of that if you don't stop the Cowboys offense from scoring. Because if you get down, as Authentic said, double digits, and now the game is in Daniel Jones' hands, they don't care about all that window dressing pre-snap. They don't care about the horizontal stuff. We'll give you the dink and dunk. You got to go score. So that's what I would do. I would essentially trick the hell out of the Cowboys pre and post snap offensively, and defensively, I'm attacking the front of the Cowboys offensive line via scheme and obviously the personnel they got.
I'm glad you brought up play action, because to me, that's like the direct result of why Daniel Jones is so effective when he does keep the ball and run. He's one of the best when it comes to play action. The way he hides the ball, that's one of his greatest skill sets, I believe, and then once he gets going, he starts running like a deer. You just got to get him going vertical, straight down the field, and he can pick up big chunk plays. We've seen that in multiple games throughout his career, so I love that advice. I think that's a great way. My mind almost damn near glitched trying to come from this at a Cowboys perspective, man.
Now you got to follow us.
But you know what? Class is in session. So since you both handled that extremely well,
that was a great question,
fellas, take your hats back, go back to your desk, and then I got one more for you.
No, Dom's a teacher.
Yeah, he's great.
I got one more. Tell me something good. Tell me something good about your actual squad, and what is it that you look forward to the most out of Sunday's matchup?
Scott, you want to take that? Or you want me to go first?
So
something good. Anything good.
Something good. Kellen Moore ain't here no more.
That's Lord.
I'm sorry, man. I tried. I did so many film sessions trying to give him credit and everything, but I'm about tired, man. We done went through 15 years of an offensive coordinator trying to make their name for themselves or learning on the damn job. Jason Garrett was learning on the job for a decade. Kellen Moore was learning on the job for 4 years. It's over. it's done. Okay, now we got an offense of scheme and offensive coach that has been proven. Let me say this: the scheme has been proven to win championships. Find me the Kellen Moore, Scott Linehan, Jason Garrett scheme that's winning championships. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Preach, brother.
So that's something good right there. And you said something I'm looking forward to on Sunday. I know this is going to sound just cheesy as hell, but I'm just looking forward to seeing our starters play. I know it's normal, but y'all, we were one of the few teams that didn't play our starters like at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I know it's going to be a little bit of rust, but I'm just, man, it's football. It's week 1. We don't know what to expect. So I'm just excited to see our guys out there and getting hit and getting back into the swing of things, because I do think a special season could be on the horizon.
Yeah.
For me, man, I'm just extremely grateful to see some new weapons around Daniel Jones, because I'm the kind of person that's like, when fan bases complain about something for so long on a team and the team doesn't adjust. I mean, when you look at the Dave Gettleman era of what happened to Daniel Jones, and I don't want to make too many excuses for him, but to trade away his number one asset the year before he becomes a starter in Odell Beckham, and then to really not address wide receivers at all. They drafted Darius Slayton in the 5th round, and Daniel Jones went for 2 seasons, and that was all they tried to really bring in. They tried to bring in Golden Tate, but he was a little bit older and whatnot. So it's just refreshing to see some new weapons out there on the field, a new opportunity to be able to see him stretch the field, because I think as Giants fans, we know that Daniel Jones has the tools. He can make all the throws, and the complaint has just been the surrounding weapons around him. I mean, our fan base today was extremely ecstatic to see Patrick Mahomes out there struggling yesterday with 2 Giants wide receivers that were on the roster last year to start the year with Richie James and Kadarius Toney. So that's how desperate we are to see some good weapons. And people were making the comparison of Daniel Jones to Patrick Mahomes today, and I think that that's batshit crazy. But they're doing that simply off the fact that seeing him with 2 of our wide receivers. So that's something that I'm very grateful to see. And looking forward to the matchup. I'll tell you something I'm looking forward to seeing is more touches for Saquon Barkley going up against this Dallas Cowboys defense. Now, I got a couple of numbers here from Saquon Barkley's matchups against the Dallas Cowboys. And in 7 games, I removed 1 game because he turned his ankle in that 1 game, didn't really get to
2021.
Didn't really get started in that one and whatnot. But in the 7 games, he's averaging 83.5 yards per game, 4.5 yards per rush, but he's only averaging 13 attempts. And my whole knock on the New York Giants, I won't say the coaching staff, but just the philosophy and the scheme late, especially in the season, is they went to more of a short pass attack to try to supplement for what we could do with the rushing attack. We have one of the best running backs in the league. I want to see them lean on Saquon Barkley in this game early, especially in the first half. Saquon's first half attempts were a drastic difference from his second half attempts. He was first in the league in second half attempts. He was somewhere down by 20 as far as first half attempts go. So I want to see them commit to this running game. Me and my homie, The Beard, my co-host on my show, we always talk about this, man. RTDB, run the damn ball. Everything starts with running the damn ball. We got one of the best backs in the league, so give him the touches that he deserves. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles' nightmare playoff game in the divisional round. Saquon Barkley touched the ball 9 times. He had 4 carries in the first half. It's unacceptable to me. And I think a lot of that came from the success against the Minnesota Vikings, where Saquon Barkley also had only 9 carries in that game, where he was averaging 5.9 per carry, and still just weren't giving him the ball. I think that game would have been a lot less closer had they have just committed to Saquon. And I just think that they want to show that we have a quarterback who is capable. I understand that. But when you look at the back half of the season, when they stopped giving the ball to Saquon so much, the Giants won 3 out of their last 10 games. And when we committed to the run early on in the season, we started off 7-2. So I want to get back to the identity. I think the identity of the New York Giants is Saquon Barkley still, and then utilize that when teams start stacking the boxes and start bringing players into the box. Then let's get that play action popping with these new weapons and see if we can find Darren Waller and others down the field.
Well, I really wonder, Authentic, if this is a Brian Daboll thing. Coming from Buffalo, he's not a running offensive coordinator. The running back is kind of just a part of the cog. It's not the entire machine. But that's a fantastic. How do you have Saquon and you only average 13 touches against Cowboys? Is crazy to me. So it's great.
It is crazy, and I think you're spot on with that Buffalo assessment with Brian Daboll. Just look at what happened with Shady McCoy over there. I think it's exactly why they didn't want to pay Saquon Barkley this year. When Brian Daboll and Joe Shane were over there in Buffalo, they just allowed Shady to pretty much walk. They drafted their quarterback. He kind of struggled the first 2 seasons, and then they turned him into the running back and the quarterback. They haven't had a solidified running game over there in years, and they're just relying on Josh Allen to get it done. I don't think that Daniel Jones is that type of quarterback where he can just go out there and just run the ball. That he's going to end up getting hurt. Daniel Jones did have an injury in his first 3 seasons. His first full healthy season was last year, so I'm looking for them to keep him upright as well. And I think you do that by giving the ball more to Saquon.
I like how he brought up Saquon because I was Patrick No-C. He wrote an amazing article. He literally talked about how the Giants lost games when what he said, Barkley was held to an average of 52.57 yards per game. And
their losses,
and Jones was forced to throw. And so that's a huge deal. In the games where Barkley had way more yards to run, they were so much better.
Yeah, that's
so
a fact.
That is their formula.
The Giants only won one game where Saquon Barkley didn't rush for at least 70 yards, and it was the Colts game. And Daniel Jones supplemented for that. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground. So, I mean, I think it's important to get the ball to Saquon. Now that you have some more weapons, I don't think you have to be as committed to getting him to that he almost had 300 carries last year. I think it'll drop down, but let's get more yards per carry and commit to it earlier. The Giants were saving gas with Saquon Barkley for the second half just a little bit too much, and I think that was a result of why a lot of those games were as close as they were.
So our guy Rohit asked a good follow-up question to Mary's question. Is it injury prevention and history, the game flow, or just DJ's development that's prevented the Giants from using Saquon more?
It's interesting. I don't think it's either. I just think it's just Brian Daboll and them really don't want to rely on the running back. They want to try to, use the short pass attack because I think Daniel Jones is developing just fine. He did everything that they asked him to do. With Saquon, I just think they're just struggling with how to utilize him. Saquon in his rookie season with Eli Manning under center, who was one of the best when it came to pre-snap as far as Giants quarterbacks go, he used to put Saquon in great position to be able to catch the ball, and Saquon caught 91 receptions that first year. And since then, it's just the number has gone down and gone down. I think last year he was around 51, something like that. So I just think they're just struggling to find his role. They leaned on him early in the season. I don't think it's an injury thing with Saquon either. I mean, you look at the middle of the season around the bye for the New York Giants when we played the Houston Texans, he had 35 attempts in that game. And he did start to wear down a little bit in the middle of the year. He was dealing with a shoulder injury after the Packers game. But it seemed like, later on in the season, he was healthy, and they were just kind of avoiding it. They kind of seemed stuck on the short pass attack to supplement for the running attack. And in return, it just Saquon Barkley just wasn't getting the touches. And I'm sure that's frustrating for a running back of his caliber.
I will say this. I think there is something to pacing your guys that way they can be healthy and ready and fresh enough as you can possibly be in the NFL at the end of the season. But for me, swing games, division games, you got to give the ball to your best players. You just do. And against the Cowboys, go back to the original question or original point. To only really give him the ball 11 to 13 times is wow.
And the thing you say about pace, the last thing I'll say about it is they don't use the other running backs well. They're not using Matt Breida that much, know. And I think it was who was our third back last year? I know we had Gary Brightwell on the roster as well, but they're not giving those guys touches. They're just not running the ball. I guess because Daniel Jones has the threat to use his legs, maybe they feel like they can split that kind of workload between Daniel Jones and Saquon.
10-4. Guys, an hour and 7 minutes. I said 30.
I didn't even realize we went that.
I just looked up. We was just flowing. I looked up. I was like, "Oh man, we said 30. It's been an hour and 8." So
my bad.
Sorry, guys.
Night. I don't want to keep.
Oh,
going
my
on
bad.
Too long.
We talk too much sometimes. I could be.
No, because we're going to keep going once y'all get out of here. But I didn't want. I mean,
great,
we're trying to be respectful of y'all's time, especially out there on the East Coast and everything else. So I saw.
I'm up,
man,
I don't go to sleep before 4 a.m. on any. Game
okay. Well, then O's got a question. Go ahead, O. Go ahead, O. Go ahead and ask that question. We just leave the lights on.
Yeah. So my question, and again, this is actually for the entire panel. I'm really curious. And Chad, I would love for you guys to participate too. And the Beard's here. He's a Commanders fan. He is the other half of the Authentic in the Beard show. So I want to make sure we give him a special shout out too. If it's a special season for your team, who is the force multiplier that is the driving force behind that? It could be a coach, player. I don't want to lead the jury. So whatever you guys want to say is cool. I'm curious to hear who is that guy that makes this a special season for your team.
Stephen Jones.
We'll start with you.
Stephen Jones and everything he did this offseason.
It's Darren Waller for me. It's short and sweet. It's Darren Waller for me. If he has a big season, he can get around 1,000 yards, 75, 80 receptions. Giants going to be in a good place.
I have a follow-up question real quick for that. I'm sorry.
No. Wait. Let's finish this one, and then we'll circle back.
Hold on.
She said, "Go ahead,
Wait, should I
Spoony."
ask or no? Okay, go ahead.
No, not yet.
For me, it's Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Dom.
Chris.
It's got to be McCarthy. It's the opposite of. I mean,
Yeah.
it goes along with what Steele said earlier about good riddance to Kellen. Wish you well. Do your thing out there, and not so much hating on him. But it's got to be Mike McCarthy and him being able to have that relationship with the Dak Prescott, not to just put it completely in his hands, but also be able to help put him in the right positions. Whenever sometimes you have to save a guy from themselves, but also you got to give them a little bit of that leeway. So that marriage, that union, that relationship that they've been able to build already, that's what I'm looking for. Mike McCarthy, that's going to be the driving force.
And that's where I'm at too. And that's because we talk about execution and everything else. And simply, I mean, here's the thing, right? They basically did the last 2 years, and whatever happened offensively, when we just blame it on Kellen Moore or whatever against San Francisco, you had to make a change. Y'all looked at it and identified it. The change is Mike McCarthy, right? So the players are here that can do that. It is up to me. I'm not there with you with Mike McCarthy, this offensive scheme and helping Dak and this offense get over humps, especially once you get into the playoffs against a team like San Francisco.
Yeah, I was going to say McCarthy, but in order to not be, saying the same thing over and over, I'll flip it to the other side and pick a player, and I'll say Micah. And the reason why I'm going to say Micah is because in the playoffs, we've had a bunch of great offenses, right? And we've had some struggles in the playoffs with our offense, specifically recently. But what I've noticed over the history of some of these Super Bowl teams is that usually when their offense struggles, the defense is there to rise up to the occasion at least one time. I'm not saying they got to carry you the whole entire postseason. So you're going to probably need some turnovers and some game-changing plays, multiple game-changing plays. You go look at the 06, not the 06, the 09 Saints. They forced 8 turnovers in the postseason. The Cowboys, listen to this. In the 4 losses, under Dak Prescott, they have 2 turnovers forced. Right. 4 games, y'all. 2 turnovers. I love my defense to death. I think the next step for the defense, though, is to be a dominant defense in the postseason at least once. You can't tell me, as good as they may have been last year or any other year, they've been dominant at any given point, really, in the last 20 years in the postseason. So to not say McCarthy, I'll say Micah Parsons, because if Micah can be that driving force in the postseason, you're talking about now taking the turnovers that you get in the regular season and putting it into the postseason, because, look, you're going up against the best. You're not going to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns every single game. There's going to be games your quarterback struggles. Can my defense, though, rise to the occasion and win that game for me? And then next week, I got you. Appreciate y'all defense. I got you this week, because that's what happens in the postseason, man.
And that's the interesting thing for this team, right? This defense is very, very good. We had this talk in the space the other night, but they're to me, they're not elite though yet. They're very good. They're good. They're on the cusp of being an elite defense. I think the run defense is still, we got to see the moves that they made this year. Is that going to change? Obviously, Authentic is talking about some of the yards they're able to rush on the Cowboys, and we just know the rushing yards and what's happened in the playoff games. If you want to add that up too on that, I mean, CJ Butterball Anderson rolled off the couch for the Rams and had 200 and whatever yards, right? But if they're able to keep those turnovers rolling, and then this run defense turns the corner, and they can turn into that elite, that's when it gets spooky hours here for the Cowboys and that ultimate quest to 6 they're trying to get to. And they're right there. So, Mike, I'm right there with you, Scott.
So, Mary, I'm going to answer real quick because I want to save you for last so you can then go into your question. So, I'm with Sky. I 100% could side with you guys on Mike McCarthy. I understand the argument there completely. Dak Prescott was brought up here. He's QB1, 100% understand that. But when I think of like force multiplier, I'm looking for that guy who's the catalyst, that guy that the team vibes off of. He's the energy setter, the pace setter, the tone setter. He brings the attitude, the swag, whatever words you want. When we were talking, we had like 3 or 4 drafts in a row where it's like that dog mentality. Like we hear that over and over every draft pick. Like, got to get JC Horn. We need that dog mentality at defensive back. And we have a lot of dogs on the team. But it's Micah. He's a lion. Like, we were talking dogs, we needed a lion, apparently. Like, he's that guy who already is one of the best in the league. But if he does what he did in training camp and absolutely dominates in the season, he will be that force multiplier that there's just not an answer for on the offensive side of the ball. You just can't block him. You just can't cover him. You just can't account for him enough. So for me, it's Micah Parsons. Like, he is that guy that could be the difference maker that we've been looking for the last 2+ decades. we've had a lot of really, really good players, but for me, I'm going to go with Micah. I agree with what Sky said.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I also like what you guys said, but for me, the guy that's the dynamic difference maker that we cannot win a Super Bowl without with this current roster is 100% Micah. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that. Mary, wrap it up for us.
Hold on, Mary, because we had a guy on earlier during training camp with us, my buddy Russell Mabin, and he was, had the media pass, was able to be around the players in the press conferences. When he came back from being around the players, asking the questions, hearing all the other reporters do their things and typing all their characters to make their living, my buddy Russell came like he was like Moses coming down with the templates, man. He was like, man, I'm telling you, Micah is way more different in person than you even realize what you see on the screen. Like, just his presence, what he talks about, it's unlike anything else any other players talking about, even the stuff that don't make it onto the camera. Like, it's all about greatness. Everything directs back to greatness with him. You want to talk contract with Micah? Nah, Super Bowls is what will dictate the way I'm going to be seen for years to come. Don't talk to me about the money. Stats, no, don't worry about the stats. It's about the Super Bowls. So y'all done made me change my answer, because the truth is, when you think about the true definition of that driving force, that's the guy.
Okay, so for me, first of all, I forgot my question. I got so hyped up. I'm like, but when this question was first posed, my first answer was Micah. And it, I hate that I have to be the last one to say it, but it's 1,000% true. That was the first thing that came in my head was Micah, only because he has, just like Professor O said, we've been on this show talking about we need a dog, we need a dog, we need a dog. We need that guy. We need that one person to take this defense over the edge. You know what I'm saying? And we got it. And his work ethic, the way he can play multiple positions, in a good way, the way he moves around the field, his energy, everything he does. He wants to play running back now. Like, they're trying to figure out, can we play him at running back?
He did it in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
And as much as we're talking about the aura of Michael Parsons, we're so enamored with how he speaks, how he moves. He's a very serious person, Dom. He is definitely serious and about winning, right? We kind of get numb to how great he is on the field and how he got better.
Right.
I don't think we're not
talking
about that. He actually got better at the football things on the field. We're talking about a guy that is one of only 3 players that have 13 sacks in to open up his career. Got better, got stronger, got smarter, knows how to use his hands more, knows how to set up the pass rush. He has actual pass rush moves. People don't realize for a year and a half that he was just out there doing it. In the middle of the game, he realized, this will work. And let me try it. Now he knows how to do it. So, that player got better at football things. So, yeah, man, he's the only person I could probably say confidently here, and this is no disrespect to any other great players or good players we have, that you can say without a shadow of a doubt, you can call him the best player in the league or the second or third best player in the league. You can have that conversation. You're not having that conversation with anybody else at their position, let alone the league in general. Michael Parsons is him.
Yeah.
And I mean, Micah's on a historical pace. So he already has 9 multi-sack games in 2 seasons. If he has any this year, multi-sack games, he'll be the 6th player to ever have 10 or more multi-sack games in the first 3 seasons. And there's a pretty good chance he'll do that in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And I mean, at training camp, Sky was there. He was unblockable.
Dom already posted a good stat where he listed multiple future Hall of Famers or current Hall of Famers that have done things that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy where Micah is compared to those people that were like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest. That's crazy.
JJ Watt, he's tied with JJ Watt right now through JJ Watt's. Sorry, through JJ Watt's first 3 seasons, he had 9 multi-sack games. Micah's already tied with him.
Yeah.
He hasn't even started his 3rd season yet. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's trying to join Reggie White as the only player to have, I want to say it was over 12 sacks the first 3 seasons. So, yeah, I mean, Micah's been a guy, man. A lot of people in the Giants community have been throwing around that Lawrence Taylor thing, and they're like, don't put him in that class. And it's like, man, if he continues at this rate, he's going to be up there. I mean, he's
how can he not?
Yeah.
He's the closest thing to LT, bro.
Yep.
Like, it's scary.
And like even to like
there just becomes a point too as an NFC fan or NFL fan. There becomes a point as an NFL fan where you just you see greatness and have to appreciate it, whether it's for a rival or not. Like there's been a player for all of us in our life where we're like Brian Dawkins was one of those safeties. He was the Eagles. I hated the Eagles, but I could not help but like him. He's just so good, consistently good for over a decade, and he was a force multiplier for them. So sometimes there's guys that you don't want to compare to your greats, but you just have to give them the flowers. And obviously it's premature. It's 2 seasons, but he's well on the way to that pace.
Thanks.
Simple. All right. Well, let's get to some predictions here, ladies and gentlemen. Shall we? Let's get to some predictions.
I'm dreading this part.
Sermon. All right, Mary. What do you got for the game Sunday? I know you love this part so much every time. What do you got?
31-21 Cowboys.
All right. Dom, we're going to save the John Scott for last. Dom, all right, where you going? Where you at for this game? What's your prediction?
Man, I think it's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be so sloppy. But I think we just have enough horses to pull it out. 23-20 Cowboys. Last-minute field goal by Aubrey.
Ooh.
And to forever change the feeling of what Cowboys fans are feeling about him right now. But I think he'll nail about a 43-yarder to win it for the Cowboys.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Steele, what do you think?
I think it'll be not as ugly as Dom is saying, but I do think it'll be a little bit struggles coming out, or possible rain, a little bit of rust and whatnot. So we won't see that high scoring team probably just yet. But I got 24-16 Cowboys. Aubrey will get a nice little field goal in. Cowboys get a few touchdowns. I do think the Giants will score a touchdown, but then the Cowboys have had a really good, red zone defense. So Graham, he can kick the ball really well. So I think he'll get his chance to kick a lot of field goals here. So 24-16 Dallas.
All right, Spoony, what you got for the game?
40-14 Cowboys.
I knew he was gonna do that, yo. I was waiting. Oh my god.
40-14.
And he said that.
He just leave me.
I knew it.
Drop
I
it.
love that.
The disrespect. Yeah.
Just the 40 burger out the gate. Like, I'm not here for play. Oh, what you got?
I knew it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of with Sky. I'm one of the guys that is like, I don't want to play the starters in preseason. I'm that guy. I'm like, I don't want to risk injury because we've seen what happened with Tony Romo and guys in the past, and it's just not worth it to me. I'd rather be rusty for a week or two, but have my guys when it actually matters. But I do expect some week 1 rust, so I'm gonna say it's a relatively ugly game through the first 3 quarters, and then we kind of pull away at the end. So I'm gonna go 27-17, and at halftime it's like a 3-point game or something like that.
10-4. Man, I've said this score since Monday. I'm not going to change it now. I've had it 24-13 all week. I think it's just one of those things. Maybe a little bit of rust, maybe the weather. I don't know, but maybe just getting things rolling. The Giants, it's NFC East. We're back to being more the NFC beast and not the least, if you will. So, you put 3 teams last year into the playoffs. The Giants have definitely gotten better. We have to acknowledge that.
This is not a bad team.
Gotten better. No.
Yeah, of course.
Whenever David Gettleman and the other coach got up out of there, and I saw who they hired, I was like, okay, now they're cooking with a little something.
I told Authentic right away when they got the general manager Wink, Kafka, and Dayball. I said, damn.
Yeah.
I like those eyes. I'm mad with y'all. Yeah.
And I was like, the Giants are on the uptick now. Now I didn't expect it to come so soon, but it just kind of speaks to the program they had there. So they did get better. And talking with Giants fans, Dash and some other guys over there in some of the spaces, and and they see that, and I'm like, yeah, y'all have gotten better, but you wasn't able to beat the Cowboys last year, and the Cowboys have gotten better as well. We need to look at that and really kind of stamp that. Y'all have done well and got better, but so have the Cowboys. All right, in 2 games last year, right, the Giants led in both those games in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, the Cowboys found a way to win. I think the Giants are set up there. It's very tough, Authentic. You talked about it earlier. The beginning of that schedule is absolutely brutal. They're going to find a lot about this Giants team, the 23 team, I should say, early. But again, I think the Cowboys have enough on deck. And what's happening here, 24-13. And this division is going to be a very fun ride with all of us going up against the AFC East this year. And, and look, everyone to a certain extent did good things in this division. So it'll be interesting to see if they can return 3. But 24-13 there. Giants have gotten better. Not enough. That gets to 11-0. And we'll see y'all back on November 12th. And look, and I told the Giants guys this too. November 12th, these 2 teams will be wildly different from week 1.
Yeah.
Wildly
of course.
different.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Authentic, by all means, last but not least, my friend.
I'm surprised to hear how close of a game that some of you have it as Cowboys fans. I would expect y'all to come into this one a little bit more confident, especially with that streak on the line.
Yeah, Spoony.
Yeah, like
Spoony
Spoony.
is, yeah.
But I'm with both of y'all, with Knicks and with Skywalker Steel on this. 24 points for the Cowboys. I think that's a good number right there. Start the season off. Probably not everything clicking on all cylinders, but I'd be a damn fool to not pick my Giants week 1 in a victory, right? This is the time for you to be the most confident as a fan. Last year, I remember I was talking on Twitter. I was like, I ain't scared of no Derrick Henry week 1. And like all these Titans fans were jumping in my mentions, going crazy. And I'm the kind of guy that I keep receipts, right? That's how I like to do. I like to pull back the receipts up and talk about it again. I don't know how the Giants are going to get to this number, but I got a 2-point win for the Giants. I think we're going to win this one 26-24, but obviously wouldn't surprise me if the Dallas Cowboys win this one. But I do think we have an advantage at home. Daniel Jones played extremely well at home last year. He had 16 total touchdowns, only 3 interceptions at home. So if he can get it done against the Cowboys, I think that home field advantage will definitely help us out. So, yeah, I'm taking my Giants in this one. Week 1, I got to walk into this one with a little bit of confidence.
And you have a blue out. Last time there was a white out, they said that didn't work at home. Let's switch the colors up. Let's go with the blue out. So
yeah, right. Got to swap it out. We'll see what happens here.
Cowboys Nation gonna be heavy in that. At that stadium.
Cowboys be everywhere, man. I'm here in Washington D.C. and I go to a lot of games at FedEx Field.
Same.
And,
I used to too.
The Cowboys, man, they be over there crazy. They be more of them than it be Commanders.
It does. I used to go almost every year for about 6 straight years when I lived up in Pennsylvania. Last one that we went to, I think, was 2015 game where I think it was Dan Bailey kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime. Yep. So and it was heavy Cowboy fans.
I mean, I will say this: I haven't been up that way, but interacted with some of the DMV Cowboys fans. They're a different breed, and the ones I've bumped into like in Twitter and social media and stuff. The DMV Cowboys fans, they're a different breed, man. Their energy is crazy. I love their energy, man. They're cut different. Like, hey, man, we here watching all this stuff all the time, so we're birthed in the fire. I'm like, hey, man, do your thing. I'm just here chilling. That's why Sweeney out here with the hot 40
DMV
out
cats
there.
know how to talk a lot of trash.
Yeah. Big facts.
Sweeney's one of the New York Cowboys fans, and we had Lance Meadows, shout out to him, on with us last year to start the season out, or for the first Cowboys-Giants matchup. And Spoony, he told him, he was like, I actually host the show at the stadium. I'll be there. And Spoony's like, no doubt, I'll come see you. So Spoony's the guy, like, wearing Cowboys gear. All the Giants fans are circled up to see, the crew talk about him. And Spoony's like going up and, dapping up Lance Meadows. So Spoony, the New York fans are a different breed too.
I could definitely relate to that. Man. Being a Giants fan in DC is not easy, and my brother's a Cowboys fan, so it's a little tough.
Smart man.
27 years says otherwise, though. I will say that.
All good things come. Yeah, this is gonna come to an end, though. We're working with it.
I think my bro is. Let me see. I'm 40 now, so my bro's 45 years old. So last time y'all won a Super Bowl, he was a young pup.
I was 45. Hey, I was old enough. I was in high school. I was old enough to bet. Okay, I remember it well.
I saw it too.
I was able to win the bet. Oh man, I tell you what. I know we got some other things to get to. Let's go ahead and get Still and Authentic, man. We appreciate y'all so much for coming through and doing your thing.
Thank you so much.
And of course, allow me to roll off the red carpet here. Any and everything that you want to plug. Let me give you all that space to do it right now. Still, go right ahead, brother.
Nah, man, I'm just gonna plug you guys, man. I gotta come back. I gotta come back during the season. Jump back on, had a great time, and definitely want to come back and kick it with Authentic again. I think one of the best in this game. I think for the Giants over there, and also Authentic in the Beard, the show in general. I said this last year. If you're looking for NFC East talk without the nonsense, that's where you need to go. But if you do want to follow me and come holler at your boy, you can come follow me on Twitter at Skywalker Still and A to Z Sports in the morning on A to Z Sports on YouTube. I got a Monday through Friday morning show about 8:30 ish, heavy on ish.
Yeah, ish. I feel that, and like I tell all Cowboys Nation consistently, especially in the spaces, you ain't got to turn on FS1 and all. Y'all get y'all's blood pressure up and everything. All you got to do is turn on YouTube. You don't got to turn on your TV. If you right there on your phone, and you're going to get fed the real content when it comes to the Cowboys each and every morning. You ain't got to worry about them other cats. Now, to your point, though, Scott, doing my homework here with Authentic, absolutely do love their show, Authentic in the Beard, and kind of go through and watch some of that. And again, hip hop heads, go check his Twitter account out. There's some good things up there for sure. Is really good. And stumbled across this, Spoony. Allow me to let us strut here for a second. We do have something in common with Authentic because all three of us picked Detroit to beat Kansas City. So this is pretty good in our pick'em leagues right now. Me, Spoony, and Authentic. If you happen to be in one. But with that being said, brother, by all means, red carpet out here, man. Go right ahead and plug where you need to plug.
Thank you, man. I'll definitely take this time to do some shameless plugs one time. I definitely appreciate y'all having me pulling up to y'all show today. This was an awesome vibe, man. I feel like we could talk ball for another couple hours. It'd be very easy. I'm an artist, producer turned aspiring filmmaker right now. I got some audio placements in 2 huge movies. I did the theme for Spider-Man Enter the Spideyverse, the main theme recorded by my brother Chaz French. And coming out in October, Killers of the Flower Moon. That's a Martin Scorsese film with Leonardo DiCaprio as the lead. I got to record some parts with my homie Fred Yone that's going to be in a lot of the murder scenes. So when you watch that movie, definitely think about your boy Authentic. I do a podcast with my brother, The Beard. We go all the way back to about 3rd grade. I mean, his mother's like my mother for real. Like, we are definitely brothers. We like to go by the left side, strong side moniker to remember the Titans one time. We do a podcast 4 days a week. Mondays, I do a show called The Giant Overreaction, where I just like kind of take media clips and take Twitter posts and we react to them and see if those are actually an overreaction. Tuesdays, we do our preview shows for the NFC East, all the games. Tuesdays, we do our recap show. Thursdays, we do our preview show for all the games in the NFC East, including the Thursday night. And then Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a fantasy-driven show called The Parlay, real laid back, where we kind of just like chop it up with the chat and kind of come to a conclusion on how to set all of our lineups. So we definitely add it. We're doing a bunch of pre-recorded content. I'm high on visuals and stuff, man. So when you see some of our pre-recorded content, it's a bit of eye candy meets, football talk, level-headed, as my man Skywalker Steele talked about. And he had me on his show as a call-in guest like last year during the season, man. And a lot of his homies in his chat came over, and they're like loyals to our channel. So I got to say salute to the Cowboys Nation that follow him especially. They definitely tune in and chime in and rock with us, man. So, I'm looking forward to do this again with y'all, man. And again, thanks for having me here, man. I love talking ball, especially when it's like this with people who know they ball.
10-4, brother. And as always on our side, Steele knows, I mean, we can go back so far and everything, but it's the same thing with Authentic. If there's anything we can do for y'all or anything, man, let us know. We're in the building. That's what it's all about, man. Appreciate you brothers coming through and rocking with us. Y'all everybody here in the chat, man. If you ain't following them, go get over there and do your due diligence. If you enjoyed this kind of talk, this kind of setting for football talk to get after the right kind of ways with good context, yeah, man, go no further. You got fed today. That's all I'm saying. You got fed the right way to good football.
Y'all set the bar higher than what all the other fan bases set for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, this was
Super
great.
Bowl,
This
Super
is
Bowl
great.
or bust, man. It's like first week.
This is great.
Woo, next week.
And let me leave y'all with something.
You.
All right.
I do think that this could be y'all year. I really, truly think that. I think that if the Dallas Cowboys can put it together, y'all have the roster, the upgrades seem like y'all are ready to go for the Super Bowl here. You just don't want to meet San Francisco in the playoffs. I think if you can find a way to dodge them, it's been 2 straight years that they've, bounced y'all out the playoffs. I do think that y'all could break the streak this year, though. The NFC is wide open. It could be any team. I think it could be my team as well, but I do think that the Dallas Cowboys have a good shot. Bringing in Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore are major moves for y'all.
Me too. Look, and I've said it from the very outset after these moves kind of happened. I think this is an NFC Championship team. I think absolutely that they're getting there. Now, once they get there, all bets are off whatever will happen, but I think they're getting to the NFC Championship game for sure. But I want the smoke, though, a little bit. I ain't going to lie to you. The fan side of me is like, hey, go and bring them Niners on in here for the championship game. Let's go ahead and get
We need the monkey off our back. We need the monkey off our back.
And remember, if you kind of go back to the 90s, right? The Cowboys went to 2, and they were taking care of Steve Young. And then that third time, Steve Young gets him. Remember,
Steve
Steve Young's on the
Young.
side. I get the monkey off my back. I want that moment for Dak. I want that moment for Dak in the championship game this year. Would be awesome.
We need it.
We'll finally get to see Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts this year. That's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah,
we get to see
last year.
Hopefully, yeah.
Big facts, big facts. All right, gentlemen, I'll roll you out of here and we'll get going because we still got we got some college football talk.
Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely appreciate y'all.
Definitely appreciate y'all having us.
Definitely getting y'all back on here, no doubt.
Let's do it.
All right, fellas. So we got a little bit of college football talk. We got the Spoony Sermon still, and
Nick's picks.
Yeah, Nick's
picks.
Let's
go Nick's picks. Can we go Nick's picks first?
Okay, let's do Nick's picks.
Let's do it.
Right,
so chat real quick, just so you guys know, I had this idea that I was like stewing in my mind on like new content for the show that we could roll out as something great, and I pitched it to Nick's, and he's like, "Oh, I used to do that on my show actually." So Nick's has already came up with this segment. I had a name for him. Nick's already had a name for it, and it was we were on the same, same brainwave length, whatever. I'm looking for wavelength. There we go.
Yeah.
This idea. So I kind of pitched it to Nick's, and Nick's was like, "Let's do it. We wanted some new content for week 1 of the season, and we're gonna roll out our very first episode of Nick's picks." So BJ Nick's, hit us with those picks.
Well, I'm already 1-0. I mean, I did pick Detroit. I put it out there on Twitter for everybody. So I got the Detroit dub.
Boo!
Right. Yeah, I got the Detroit dub. But look. I'm taking the layup drill. I'm taking the Cowboys. Okay, I'm going to give y'all 4 picks, right? 4 picks each week. So give me the Cowboys over the Giants. Give me San Francisco on the road, right, against Pittsburgh. I think I'm going to go there. Here's an interesting one. And I have to think about this one. The Cincinnati-Cleveland game's interesting. It's very interesting, right? Joe Burrow was hurt. What's going on? They're going into Cleveland, right? Now they've got a full offseason with their quarterback, with Deshaun Watson. Where's it at? I don't care. I'm still taking. I'm taking the road team. I'm taking Cincinnati. I don't care that he's coming back. My guy Will Greer's over there too. It means nothing in the game, but I am absolutely taking Cincinnati over Cleveland. I can't trust Cleveland. I can't do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just can't do it. And then the game a little bit down the peg. It's going to feature a couple of quarterbacks that are young. The Carolina versus Falcons. And I see a lot of slander on the Falcons, and Carolina's going to get this dub. No. Falcons will hold serve at home. Atlanta's going to get that win over Carolina, and we might see a Bijan coming out party. Might just see that. So that's my 4 picks, though. That's my 4 picks for this week.
Next picks.
Nick, I posted this on Twitter, and I want to hear your take on this. So for those that are betting, MGM Bets has some over-unders for Cowboys-Giants matchup. So Dak Prescott, 240 yards passing. Are you over or under?
240. I am over.
Daniel Jones, 209 passing yards.
I am under.
Ooh.
All right, this is the last 2 I'm going to give you. Tony Pollard, 67.5 rushing yards.
Under.
Ooh, interesting.
Okay. And Saquon Barkley, 65.5 rushing yards.
Over.
Okay, cool. So Nick's and I were 4 for 4 there. We agreed on all of those.
Oh, okay.
Nice. All right, cool.
Boom.
First ever Nick's pick segment.
We were tied. We were tied on the segment. And we're tied. We're locked in.
Same wavelength.
We just became best friends. We're going to do some karate
So
in the garage.
we got a question in the chat. Yes. Quick question in the chat from Brother L. Is it hashtag Nick's Picks or hashtag Nick's Picks?
Yeah, I mean,
you let us know, Brother L. You pick.
Man, I'll let the people speak. I mean, we just kind of talked about it and came up with it, so I'm good with either one because I'm also doing the Nick's 6 each week as well. That's going to be just a Twitter thing not here. So, I mean, picks technically, if we want to be correct, is the CKS, right? But I mean,
I say the second one. Nick's picks, the second one.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Part going over. I think it's going to have a lot of look. The reason why I went that realm though was I think it's going to be more towards the the catching the ball is where.
Yeah, I think we're gonna pass. We're gonna exploit those rookie corners. That's what I think.
Oh man, there's a lot of people with just wants to
And
fix PIX.
they
Y'all keep voting down there and let us know which one it is, and whatever the people say, we'll roll with, no matter what.
And
we
me
think.
and Professor O also decided that the first TD goes to Jake Ferguson. So
I hope so, because guess what? In my fantasy league, I have him. He was my backup since Kelsey's out, so I need that. I need that energy.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it, man.
Let's go, Fergie.
Let's get it. Let's get it, Fergs.
Yeah, I even know how it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna say that. So,
okay.
CeeDee Lamb over 100 yards. Actually, CeeDee Lamb's over under 71.5 yards receiving. You guys over. We're going 2 rookie cornerbacks. And even if Adoree Jackson covers in the slot, I don't care if it rains, unless it's a monsoon, he's over.
Yeah, it's over all day.
Definitely.
I don't care if it is a monsoon; it's still over.
Yes, and I want to talk about the matchup real quick. So we loved having Skywalker Steele. Salute to him and Authentic. It was great to have them on. But I want to hear you guys what you think of the game. So start with you, Dom. What matchup intrigues you about this game? It could be something they talked about and just your spin on it, or a matchup maybe we haven't touched on yet. Is there a certain, maybe coach for coach, player for player, or player versus coach, whatever matchup it might be that intrigues you about this game?
I mean, I'm going with the lowest hanging fruit, and that's going to be Andrew Thomas versus Micah Parsons. And really, it's not to see so much how much has Micah improved with all of what we have heard about what he's done in the offseason to get better. But to me, I want to see Andrew Thomas and how well he's ready to be prepared to go against the elite of the elite when it comes to the pass rushers in NFL, because I liked him coming out of the draft. And I'm not all just about looking at our guys. I want to see how well has he truly developed. And he's worth the money. He was worth the pick. But if Micah Parsons can continue to attack him and be successful in that matchup, then that just bodes well for the rest of the season for Micah. So I want to see like the nuances within the game. How are they going to attack one another? And I'm kind of truly hoping that Dallas will truly use Micah as a chess piece, but they're going to have their showdowns. And so I know Thomas is looking forward to it. Micah is definitely looking forward to it. In fact, I think the reason why last year, and I think Authentic brought it up, I think the reason why you saw Micah Parsons stay on that side and not go towards Evan Neal is because Micah wanted that. And so sometimes, like I said earlier, you got to kind of save the player from themselves. And it's okay, Micah. You don't have to always prove that you're the best going against the best. So put him on that side with Evan Neal as well. But that's the matchup I'm looking for, to see how much have both of these young men who are still early in their careers, how well have they developed?
10-4.
Spoony.
For me, I'm looking at the Giants rookie corners, Banks and Hawkins. One's a first-round pick. The other one is a sixth-round pick. I want to know how aggressive McCarthy is going to be able to attack those two corners. Even when if for some during the game when you're going to have CeeDee Lamb going to that slot, I have a feeling that Adoree Jackson will be the one to follow him. I believe that's going to open up more for Brandon Cook to make more plays and Michael Gallup as well. So I want to know how aggressive are we going to be. But of course, it starts up front with the protection with Dak Prescott in the offensive line. But I'm very intrigued about that. I really want to see how aggressive Mike McCarthy be in his West Coast offense against those rookie corners.
Mary.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an extension of what Spoony said as far as I want to see how aggressive they're gonna be. That is something that I've worried about all off season, and that's something I had an issue with. Doing the wrong things at the wrong time with Kellen Moore and those types of things. So I'm interested. It's one thing to like things that you see in the off season. It's another thing to actually see them do it in games and to keep it up and be consistent and be able to execute it. So I'm interested in seeing that 1,000%. Just
okay. What about you, Nix?
Actually being good and doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just the more I've looked at it, I mean, just all week long, it just kind of comes back to the same thing. It's their D line versus our O line. Because if they're able to just get away with 4 or just 5, then that's going to go a long ways for those young guys that y'all are talking about and what they're doing. And I just don't think, if they're not able to do that, I think it just puts a hell of a lot of pressure. Because if they're not, and they got to start sending people, the Cowboys are absolutely going to score points then. And then that puts everything on Daniel Jones to them. Can they keep up against our defense and match point for point? So I just think the key matchup is their front 4 versus the Cowboys offensive line and where it gets there. And maybe a little step further, can Wink not be Wink? Can he be patient to see if it happens and not, okay, I got to start sitting in the house? And maybe there's a little bit there that too from Wink. And I mean, hey, what they say, zebra can't change its stripes. I mean, Wink's Wink, so that's definitely going to be a very integral part here if he's going to get off the gas because of those young guys and try to let those front 4, because again, both times we played them last year, they didn't have all 4 guys playing for them. So that's a definitely interesting point that they're going to have in this game and how Wink attacks that.
Yeah, and I so badly want to say Jaron Curse versus Darren Waller because that seems like the matchup. Like if the Giants are going to beat us, he's the big addition. Obviously, they have Jalen Hyatt. We all know how rookie wide receivers can absolutely explode. We've seen that a few times, and we've also seen them take some time to assimilate to the National Football League. We don't really know what his usage is going to be like. We assume he's going to be a deep threat that they use to stretch the field like we saw in the Jets preseason game. But how much of that do we see? Do they use him, do they show off some of his versatility, or is it a lot of stack fronts and, wheels and fly routes and stuff like that? But for me, the matchup just seems like it's going to be Wink Martindale, like you mentioned, versus Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's taking over play calling duties again. It's our first time of really seeing the Cowboys offense unleashed. Does it look like the Green Bay Packers offense that he had? Are we seeing a lot of 11 personnel? Are we seeing 12 personnel? How much are we running the ball? How much are the running backs getting the ball out of the backfield? How does Wink account for that? Because there's that chess piece, the chess matchup that goes from both sides too. Does he expect that Mike's going to try different things and already have wrinkles in place to stop that? How is he going to utilize Simmons? Like there's so many matchup angles, I think, in it. For me, the matchup is going to be coach for coach, Mike McCarthy versus Wink Martindale. That's going to be the matchup I'm most excited to see because Wink's aggressive. I love that personality. I'm that guy that's like, actually, I'm a defensive coordinator for my son's youth team, and I'm like totally send off 11 every play. Like that's how I am. If you've watched our show at all, I'm the guy that's like 4th and 8, just go for it. Be aggressive. You have a better chance of winning the game by not punting and kicking the field goal. Just be aggressive and go for it. That's just how I am. But I'm curious to see, like Sky mentioned, like we heard from Authentic, you brought it up too, Nix. Can Wink fight his nature and not be hyper aggressive to wait to see if Mike McCarthy shows his hand first, or who does? Like that matchup just is really intriguing for me. So that's my answer.
So who do we think?
And the other side too, right? The other side too on that is, look, Mike called the plays for a couple of preseason games. He hasn't called plays since what, 2017, 2018, somewhere around in there. Yeah. Is there, forget the players who haven't played, this preseason, the rust factor. Is there going to be some rust? The lights are on. He's going up against Wink. How's that going to look for him too early on as well from Mike McCarthy and play calling for the first time in over 6-7 years?
You know what? I'm not worried. Somebody in another group that I'm in sent me, or they posted a video of like when Dak was on the sidelines calling plays and McCarthy's reaction to it. And they're just like, yeah, oh, perfect. It seems like they were so in sync.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely not worried because I think that something that we haven't had often in Cowboys land is a QB being 1,000% on board or in sync with what's going on with the play caller. And the same thing with the head coach, because we've had a head coach that doesn't call plays even before McCarthy. But this video is like, obviously it's preseason and, you take that with a grain of salt, but that was a great game for them together and for them to both understand it and be very visually on the same page means a lot.
So what you're saying, Mary, What you're saying is get your popcorn ready.
Or you
That's his second prop of the night, by the way. Third prop of the night.
And get the flowers ready.
Yeah.
For the corneration of young Dak Prescott. I got my popcorn ready. And
get the popcorn.
I love it.
Ready.
I love it.
I got it ready for the Spoony Sermon, but be a little bit from that. But man, I'm with you on that, Mary. I'm with you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a big difference when you can see a physical buy-in in those things. Right. It's subtle, but it means a lot.
Sure. You know? And it goes back to him talking about having the quarterback own the pocket, right, and own the cuddle. And, you know, it's going to be about reading before the snap and the changes and getting into it. So, yeah, it's exciting. I'm ready to see the Texaco offense out here and getting after it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know what I mean? We got some college, college football.
On the Mike McCarthy.
Oh, go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, So one final thought on that. So on the Mike McCarthy thought process, you know, one of the things that we on this show and a lot of the people in the community and a lot of the fan base had frustrations with Kellen Moore, and Nick, you were one of the more vocal ones about it too, is there's not a setup punch. Like, you're just throwing wrinkles out there without doing anything to set that up so that you can get that big play. And then we talked about every once in a while there would be the setup punch, and then there wouldn't be the follow-up punch. Like, okay, now you got the jab in, get the knockout blow. Like, it's right there, and we just didn't do it. So that's one of the things I'm interested to see with Mike McCarthy too. And when we talk about, like Sky says it a lot on his show, dribbling with a purpose, right? I'm not just dribbling the ball to dribble it. We're dribbling to drive to the rim, or dribbling to set up our three-point shooters, or whatever it might be. You know, we talk about 12 personnel a lot on this show. Authentic brought up from the Giants standpoint, they want to see more 12 personnel. The league is heavy on 11 personnel. League-wide, it's like 65% of the time is what teams are utilizing that. And when you're in 11 personnel, I've mentioned it before in the show, but one last time just to recap, defenses are in their base defense 2.8% of the time. 2.8% of the time. So less than 3% of their snaps when you're in 11, which is what we see league-wide, you're actually facing a base defense. So you're going to be seeing nickel defenses and dime defenses because that's what teams are doing to counter your 11 personnel. Yeah. However, when you go 12 personnel, you flip that. You flip the script and force them into their base defense. And we all know most teams don't have more than one good coverage linebacker. You're lucky if you have two. You definitely don't have three good coverage linebackers. So if you're in your base defense, if you're in a 4-3, or especially if you're in a 3-4, you now have the coverage mismatch in your favor when you're an offensive coordinator in the passing game. And if they choose not to go base, which they do 49.8% of the time when you're in 12 personnel, you have the size mismatch to run the ball. So you're forcing their hand. And honestly, the same is to be said on 21 personnel or any of the 20 series or 12 personnel, but you're forcing them out of what their staple of their defense is. So that's why I like that. And it makes total sense on why Brian Daboll and the Giants are looking at doing the same thing, especially with what they have from a wide receiver room standpoint. It especially makes sense saying, hey, we'd rather have Darren Waller and Bellinger on the field versus having three of the wide receivers that we have out there. You know, that's our best interest. We can run the ball. You know, we have better pass protection, and we can exploit that mismatch. So it'll be interesting to see if Mike McCarthy goes 11 personnel heavy, like what he's done historically, or if we see a lot of 12 personnel, which is what we've done the last 2 or 3 years, and maybe even more of that. So I'm interested to see a lot of what Mike McCarthy's going to do, but really from a play calling standpoint and a schematic standpoint, more important than the play calling, like what that actually looks like.
10-4. You know, I was going to college football. I'm going to save college football. We'll put a bow on the Cowboys talk first. I think we should put a bow. Spoony. Dadgummit.
Look, you can tell he's got his game face on already. Yeah.
I know he's been ready. Hold on. Let me ask you. Y'all want to do the college football talk and then end it with the Spoony sermon? Well, Spoony's been over already. I've been watching it.
Yeah.
What y'all want to do? What y'all want to do?
I'd rather do the college football real quick, just so Spoony can absolutely. Spoony is gonna ether this, so I cannot wait to hear what he has to say.
But we got some good college football this weekend. Hey man, we got for all the Horns fans, right? Horns Bama is Texas back. Are they gonna be back? Talk about Clemson, by the way, going to Duke. Hey, Duke, biggest win versus Clemson since 1936. Holy cow! LSU with the big drop against FSU and what they did. Colorado going to Nebraska, right? The two coaches there. Can Matt Rule figure it out? Does Dion and them boys keep rolling? I think they do. What games are y'all looking forward to this weekend? Don.
I mean, it's.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Look, I'm not as big of a college football guru as y'all, but I was up. I think Colorado played at 11 last week. I was up at 10. I already had a beer popped in my hand. I was ready.
She was ready.
And it was amazing. And I'm never missing a Colorado game ever again. So
you watching Colorado, Nebraska for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because I can't even remember the guy's name, but he just said this week that he's like already Dion'd out and he's praying for Nebraska to win. And I'm like, that's just more
Mad Dog.
Bulletin board. Yeah, Mad Dog. Yeah,
Mad Dog
like that's just more for Dion to just do what he does. And his son is great. Like they were already great. Like these are players that were already good. They just weren't getting the full respect they deserved. And I'm excited about them. UT, I'm from Texas. I have friends that went to UT. They knew Vince Young. I met Vince Young multiple times. I've gone to UT games. So obviously I'm always hoping for their revival. So excited about that Bama game. It could be big for them.
Wait. You graduated from A&M?
I graduated law school from A&M. Yes, I'm an Aggie, and I got my ring on.
You're an Aggie over here cheering for the Longhorns? There's people that are not going to be very happy with you.
Look, it's college football, okay? It's different for me.
There's going to be people coming for you, Mary. They're going to come for you, Mary.
But, look, like I said, I got friends that went to UT. I've met Vince Young multiple times. I've hung out with him. He's a nice guy. He's cool.
Who's A&M playing this weekend? A&M playing anybody this weekend?
Miami.
Hurricane.
Ooh,
Miami Hurricane.
Yeah,
okay.
They're playing Miami. I'm going for them too.
Okay.
Don't come for me. Don't come for me next.
Cut me later, Mary.
Right? I'm being in the chat. Like, what'd you say?
My faux pas. I was being a little petty. My faux pas. My bad. I was just a little hazy. I was like, I thought you graduated A&M. I know. Okay. I'll leave it alone.
So Colorado was one of the games we talked about last week, right? We talked about Colorado TCU, and we, to be fair, we hit the low hanging fruit, right? We talked about Deion Sanders getting his first opportunity. His son Shador Sanders, could he put himself? That was one of the comments we talked about. The top two guys, it's pretty locked in right now on who the front runners are for quarterbacks, but QB 3 through 10. There's a lot of guys you can throw in that list, and Shador Sanders came out was like a 400-plus yard game to start it out. And we'd be remiss if we didn't 500. Sorry, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Travis Hunter though. We've talked about. A lot of people talked about him. A lot of people had high expectations with him. I know Mendoza in the chat. That was one of his guys he's been on. A lot of people have. First game, he put everybody on notice. Like, I'm right here in the Heisman conversation. And then salute to Deion Sanders for handling the way I would have handled it. Maybe not the most. It's the most honest approach. When he sat down in the press conference, like, what do you have to say now? Do you believe now? A reporter who was highly, doubtful on what they were going to do. Yeah. And again, I understand why you would feel that way as a reporter covering the team. But Deion got his moment to say, what do you have to say about it now? Do you believe in us? And it was cool. He got that vindication. Can he keep that up? They're now a top 25 team. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah. And it's well-deserved. And also, to be clear, that field when they played at TCU, it was actually pretty cool. I was excited because I was like, we're walking our dog and it's only like 87 degrees and it was like 9 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, that is only 87 degrees. And then by the time the game started, it was like 130 on the field. Mm-hmm. And for Travis Hunter to play that many snaps,
over 130 snaps.
Yeah, on both sides of the field and still do what he did is like amazing. I'm pretty sure it's unheard of. That's crazy.
It was.
Deion said they're going to add a hot tub in their plane.
Yeah.
The plane for him on the way home. Like, that's just crazy. Even like seeing guys that have done it, like we've seen Champ Bailey do this. We've seen Terrence Newman did a little bit in college. We've seen guys that have done this in the past where they've played both ways, but it was usually you have a primary side of the ball and it's situationally. Maybe like big matchup.
Not like this.
Not like, it's crazy.
Dom,
Bama, Texas. My bad. I was just gonna say Bama, Texas, since you guys brought that up, and I know Dom's gonna have some guys he wants to mention too. Especially there's an offensive lineman from Bama that we haven't talked about yet because we didn't touch Bama last week, and I'd love to hear Dom's thoughts on him. But in that game, you have a really interesting matchup with Bama defensive backs, Khalid McKinstry and Malachi Moore are projected to be. McKinstry is projected to be a top 15 guy, and Malachi Moore is in that second, third round conversation right now. Again, it's early versus Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell for the Texas Longhorns. So that's a really interesting matchup. If you guys aren't big college football fans and want to get to know some of the names to watch out for in the draft, that game alone is going to have probably 6 to 8 guys that are going to be drafted relatively high. But there's at least 4 guys that are going to be super early. So that's definitely the game to watch this week. Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, and that is the showdown. That's the matchup to look for. It's 3 against 8. I mean, that's just going to be a nice ball game. And the guy that I think is going to make the big difference in this game, well, first, UT fans, y'all already know offensive line is what has ailed you for years and years and years, ever since the Mac Brown era. But you think you got enough good guys up front that are big, that are already SEC ready types. They did okay last year. Now they're a year older. So offseason peanut butter, all that stuff even applies for college players. But it's all about Quinn Ewers. And for me, it's like, all right, man, are you going to step up? Are you a former 5-star quarterback that was overvalued and now we're ready to be like discount you? Or are you a former 5-star quarterback ready to show you were a high-valued quarterback? And if he is able to pull this rabbit out of his hat where Texas can now pull the upset over Alabama, this is now going to catapult them, springboard them into the rest of this season where finally we might be able to say Texas is really
back.
Okay, but do we think
I'm not going to use that word for
all the way
Texas
there,
folks. But no, there's so many good matchups in this game, and it's going to be one in the trenches. Last year, I think overall, Alabama's defensive line was able to step up whenever they needed to step up. Gibbs was a huge part in being able to get to the outside, have those big plays that was able to help them take care of the Longhorns, who played a pretty good game. And many feel as if Ewers wouldn't have gone out, wouldn't have gotten hurt. Maybe Texas would have won that game. So there's matchups all over the place. That's the game to look for. But one game that kind of interests me more than some of the others is seeing what is Texas Tech going to do. And I know we got some Red Raider fans who are in here. They lost last week to Wyoming, having been up 17-0, lost that game to an inferior team. Now they're going against the number 13 team in the nation in Oregon. And people are already thinking that's going to be a loss. Well, how well are you going to play in that game? Are you going to fight back? Joey McGuire spent all off season talking so much cash. That boy talked mess. He's so upset about Texas bouncing, going to the SEC. You do all that talking, and I've met McGuire, great man, on the sideline with him here in my hometown as he's scouting one of the best receivers, a 5-star receiver, in Micah Hudson. But it's guys like Micah Hudson who are very highly interested in Texas Tech. They seem to want to be a part of that program. They have a number of 3, 4, and 5-star recruits, well, Micah being the 1 5-star, that are interested in going out to Lubbock. So if you can put up a nice hard fought against the 13th team in the nation, it could turn that season around to help them with the high school recruiting. So you Red Raider fans out there, y'all better show up. Y'all better be sending good vibes to your team as they're playing a tough Oregon squad who's also looking to bounce back from the kind of season that they had, the way that they ended it.
I have one question about UT. What do you think as far as, QB goes, what about Arch Manning? Does he have a chance to ever start?
This year, you mean?
Good
Yeah,
time.
This season?
this
Okay,
year.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, he's gonna start eventually. I don't know. Look, I watched the Rice game. It wasn't impressive from yours. I mean,
No,
let's be
it
honest.
wasn't. No, it
It wasn't
wasn't.
impressive from
It
yours.
was not.
And Diamond, you're talking about the offensive line. Offensive line wasn't really impressive against Rice.
No.
Yeah.
Just keep it a bug. But
No,
I mean, hey,
the
look, first
game
game,
offense
yeah.
at all was not, to me, impressive for UT at all because Rice is not good.
Hey, I got a hot take. I got a hot take for you. It might be hot take for some, it may not be.
Okay.
I don't think Arch Manning is going to be quarterbacking for the Texas Longhorns as a starter, not this year, maybe not even in his career. That might be one that you're going to have to watch out for the portal, because the young guy that's really the quarterback 2 right now who should be maybe a quarterback 1 depending on how this season goes for Texas, and Malik Murphy, 6'5", 238 pounds. He was actually the most impressive quarterback during spring ball all throughout the offseason. But you just know that there's still the hype on Ewers being a former 5-star guy coming back from Ohio State, coming home. And then you got Arch Manning and the Manning family and all that comes along with it. But here we are. We got this guy, Malik, right there that's outperforming.
I will say, in the overarching thing here is quarterback play from last week around the league, the Penix of the world. I mean, just in obviously Sanders for Colorado. I mean, just around college football. Definitely something I'm going to keep a bird's eye view of now, because a lot of the talk come in, oh, well, okay, it's Drake May. Okay, it's Caleb Williams, and can Spencer turn the corner, right? And maybe some other. It was kind of there. Strong performances from quarterbacks around this thing. I mean, impressive.
Yeah.
I ain't talking about running the ball. I'm like, what they were doing with their arm talent and what they were in throwing the rock, just very impressive. So that's going to be something wildly interesting. Like there was some kind of say about the Pac-12 quarterbacks or something that was ignorant touchdowns or whatever. And I'm like, it's just crazy. So to see how that, transcends the rest of the way is going to be really fun to watch this season from these young quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
Bo Nix, you guys mentioned Oregon earlier. Bo Nix is one of those guys too in the Michael Penix conversation where he's a guy that could be QB3 in this class or he could be QB8. He had a really strong season last year, and if you look at them statistically, both Penix and Bo Nix had big seasons. Dom, I absolutely love your take. And the chat's mentioned a few names. It would be very interesting to see Ewers and Arch Manning flip. Being the high name quarterback at Ohio State that went to Texas, and now the big name quarterback from Texas that went to Ohio State. And then again, because of Peyton Manning, it would be cool to see him go to Tennessee and Florida. I think there's a pretty high likelihood that he never starts a game for Texas. I think he's a guy that went in there thinking, with my hype, I'm going to get opportunities. I'm going to beat out yours. He didn't. He, at the end of this year, may very well transfer and say, I want to start. I don't want to sit out another year and wait. I want to, continue this hype. So I think that's a great take. The quarterback play in general, there's a lot of names, and I think it's hard to iron it down, like you mentioned, Nick, after the top 2. So, we try to do this for 2 weeks now. We're going to do it through the course of the season because the guys we're saying right now, we don't know who's QB 3, 4, 5. We probably will have a pretty good pulse on that as the season goes on. And some of the names we haven't really talked about yet, like Tulane's quarterback, Michael Pratt, might be one of the names you throw in there. Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. Like, there's a lot of guys that are kind of on that fringe, QB 8, 9, 10, 11 range that we might talk about as the season goes on too. So it's interesting.
FSU's quarterback, Travis Walker, we even mentioned him tonight. I mean,
Travis Howard. Yeah, I mentioned him, as a matter of fact, that I was a believer in him in FSU, and I thought they'd beat LSU.
Okay, so
Well, I'm talking about tonight. We didn't bring him up.
I didn't see
much. You're right.
I
myself real quick.
I didn't see much about this guy, but I was watching a sports show and they said he's a guy to watch. So I want y'all opinion on him. Okay. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss. Ooh. Did y'all see any of that?
So Ole Miss has a ranked game too. Ole Miss is playing Tulane. As a matter of fact, it's interesting you brought that up. So they're playing this weekend. I'm not super high on him personally, but Ole Miss has produced some pretty solid quarterbacks recently, so maybe he might be that guy. I'm not a huge believer in him yet, but we'll see. But yeah, to your point, he is getting some buzz.
Yeah, no, he was on, I think it was ESPN. Somebody was talking about him, and I was like, some guy that I was like, oh, let me make sure I look him up, and I want to tell you about him.
All right, well, again, we got college football Saturday on deck in less than 12 hours. It's going to be rolling. It's going to be a fun time. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for those that have sticking around for over 2 hours now, we appreciate you sticking around for over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And this is your payoff right here for sticking around for over 2 hours. Dom's going to get the popcorn ready. Okay, he's got the popcorn ready. All right. We are about to unleash the regular season edition, the first one of the regular season. The one and only Spoony Sermon is now upon us. Now, I must caution you. You maybe turn down your head. If you have a headset, you might want to turn down a little bit. I don't know where Spoony will be at. It's the first one of the year, so I don't know where he's going to be at. So you might want to turn it down a little bit. Notify a friend. It's about to happen. Spoony, my good friend, are you ready to deliver the opening of the 2023 season sermon?
10-4.
The floor is yours.
I want you guys to bear with me in case I get a little emotional with this. Sometimes in life, you're giving signs and you're giving messages, but it's not always meant for you to keep it to yourself. It's always meant for you to share it. But before I move on with the messages and the signs, I want to give you the backstory of this jersey right here. This jersey right here is a Michael Irvin Dallas Cowboy jersey. You can see it's old, it's wrinkled. This is my first football jersey as a Cowboys fan. I got this jersey 96. In New York, you never saw a Cowboy jersey being for sale. So one day I'm walking down Myrtle Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. I go into the sports store. When I go into the sports store, I see 3 Cowboy jerseys right here. This one, and it was 2 more. So I asked Mr. Chen, how much are the jerseys? I gotta have one. $45.99. Couldn't afford it at the time. I went home. I says, Mom, I have to get that jersey. She said, son, can't afford it. So I went outside. I said, I got to think of something. I was collecting bottles and cans. My goal was to make $50 enough just to get this jersey. When I went back to the store to Mr. Chen, he said, hey, I only see one here. What's the other 2? They were sold. I had to move my ass. So about 2 weeks, I sold bottles and cans, gave it in at the machine at the supermarket just to get this jersey. When I got this jersey, I wore this jersey every day. Over to school, I wore it to school dances. I mean, my God, all you saw was me and this jersey. I am 43 years old. I got this jersey at 15 years old. And you know what, growing up, all the movement, this jersey is the only item that I still have from my childhood. Now, once I got this jersey, the same year, Emmitt Smith's E22 sneakers dropped. Now, of course, ain't that many bottles and cans I had to collect to get those at the time. I just couldn't get them. But what does that have to do with signs and message, right? Moving forward, fast forward to present times. I'm in the living room with my wife. We heard a big noise from this room that I'm in right now. Comes in the room. I'm looking around. My closet is always shut. It's always shut. Open up the closet door. All my Cowboy jerseys are hung up. This one right here, there's a hanger. From the hanger, it's keeping the door open. Now I'm like, there ain't that much weight and a hanger is gonna pop out that closet door. So I grabbed the jersey. I sit down. I get an alert from my phone, from Twitter, and I follow Emmitt Smith. He announces the same day the E22 sneakers will drop. September 15, 2023, I will be at the Reebok store in Manhattan, New York for them sneakers. So, what does that have to do with the message and the signs? So, I got this jersey when the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. The E22 sneakers, Emmitt Smith sneakers, dropped the same year the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. So as I stood paused for a second, it felt like something took me and brought me back. But when it took me, I didn't come back empty-handed. I came back with a message because I saw all the signs that day. So during that little trance when I wasn't available, I didn't know where I was at. The message given to me was, Spoon, they don't understand. They don't believe. You need to make them understand. So those of them in Pick Sports, what do we say? Hashtag understand this. This Sunday night at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, yes, we're going to see on our iPhones, on our Androids, the weather. The weather forecast said cloudy. Nah, there's a storm coming. And the storm is coming is a Cowboy storm. That storm was created by all the doubters, all the pretenders, by all the phony former football players who have traded their cleats for a bow and tie, and that bow tie is so far up their ass, they don't understand how real this Cowboy team is. So, and continue with the message. The signs was put out there. This jersey, E22 sneakers are dropping at the same time. That is destined for the Cowboys to reach where we haven't been in a long time, the Super Bowl. I'm not talking about first-round playoff. I'm not talking about NFC Championship. My stakes is higher because it was told to me that's where we're going. My question to y'all is, y'all need to understand, but my goal tonight is to make you understand. And what I mean by making you understand, I want to see fire emojis. I want to see stars. I want to see fist pump. I want to see any motherfucking thing in there to show me, to tell me that you're believing what we're about to do starting on Sunday. That's what I want to see. We are going to be the shit, not the type of shit that's in Philadelphia when it pours out of that horse's ass, they're waiting. Nah, not that type of shit. The type of shit that I'm talking about is when we're walking and we're strutting and all we doing is getting that respect to say, hey, they're the shit right there. That's America's team. That's the team that we all know and saw. You think the front office just came out there and started playing around for a reason? Nah. See, some of y'all still don't get it. Some of y'all don't get it, but my goal, my job is to make you get it, to make you understand. A storm is coming, and it starts Sunday night. And after that storm, we're going to, no disrespect to the New York Giants, my brother Authentic, I just got to keep it 100. We're going to fold the New York Giants like paper and deliver that mail to Aaron Rodgers and say, your ass is next, week 2. Go. Service done.
Let's go.
Okay, all right. I got to do this. First off, Spoony, you did not disappoint with the first Spoony sermon. Dom's been bringing out props all night. I have to talk about this. I had to go to my closet and grab these. So Spoony talked about the Reebok ES22 shoes. So I was in elementary school. I was in 4th grade, I think. And for Christmas, I begged my parents to get me the Reebok ES22 shoes. I had to have the Emmitt Smith shoes, and they got them for me. And I wore them every day until they fell apart. When they retroed them, which I think was in like 2012, 2013, one of the two, I bought a pair. I have them. I've never worn them. Never once worn them. I still have the tattoos on them. I've never worn them. These are the Reebok ES22 shoes. I've never worn them, and I kept saying I'm saving them for the Super Bowl. I'm gonna wear them when we go to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna wear them on that night.
Put it back up there real quick, man.
Wow. Yeah.
So these are the Reebok ES22 shoes, just so you can see. I've never worn them, so they're dope. You can't. I don't know if it'll focus. It says 22 right there on the Reebok logo.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, there you go. So I've never worn them, and every time I go in my closet, I see them, and I'm like, one day I'm gonna get to wear these. I'm gonna wear these. But I've been waiting. So Emmitt Smith brought out that they are bringing them back on September 15th. So Spoony mentioned that he wanted to get those shoes. He said he's gonna be in line to get them already on next Friday. We have a show next Friday. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bless somebody in our chat with a pair of these next Friday. When they drop, I'll go online and purchase you guys a pair of the shoes to celebrate what Spoony just said, the new season, and me getting to wear these this year or next year in February. So I want somebody else to be able to do the same thing. So next Friday, I'm hooking somebody up with these shoes. So Spoony, thanks for bringing that up.
Let's go.
That was a great story. I loved it. I was like,
I didn't know where it was going. I was like,
it was like I was in first grade. I had my legs crossed and I was ready for the story time. I was so excited. It was great.
Yeah, Spoony Sermon, I think that might be the first one ever. He's like, he got to the understands this. The hashtags are out here, but he took us on a trip, guys.
He did.
The Spoony Sermon is evolving in front of our eyes. He took us on a trip down memory lane and brought it all full surface. That was a great way to start the season, Spoon. My God,
I'm about this
you never
life.
cease to amaze me, Spoon. Year after year, time and time.
We are always surprised.
Yeah,
because we never know what's going on.
Mary, we started this thing out, going into our fifth. 4 seasons ago, we had the Spoony Minute, and then it just slowly has grown into.
We realized that a minute was not enough.
No, and then I was like, "Hey, we just got to call it the sermon." I was like, "Oh, you're right, because this minute ain't working. We keep him on. We keep Mary's over here on the clock. Hey, the minute's fast. We're like, well, we can't stop it." And El got to the sermon, and now here's Dom, and what he's doing over there, preacher man Dom.
Hey,
he was quiet the whole show too. Like I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if he was saving it or he was just in that.
He was ready.
I'm ready for war.
I was ready with that face. When I saw that face, I was like, oh, okay. All right.
You might have set the bar too high for yourself.
Spoony, he be ready every week. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, no ifs, no idea. Ladies and gentlemen. Hey, we're less than. We're less than 48 hours away from kickoff, guys, on Sunday Night Football. Officially, let's go. For those, if you're going to be around and you got iOS, I'm still waiting for the Android app. Pro Sports Fans, me and Lando will be over there on the Pro Sports Fans app, live reacting through the game. You can come up on the camera, everything, interact with us. So if you're anywhere you're at, man, join us over there as well too. Dom, we kind of rolled out. Y'all are look. And Dom, y'all ain't slick. Let me tell y'all something real quick. Y'all ain't slick on this point. Let me tell y'all something real quick. This college football thing and whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then magically my ass got into a damn starting because of what was going on down there in the Colorado and TCU game. I was like, well, I'll just do it for the fourth quarter. And Dom came in. I'm like, well, Dom, you just run them. That's your thing. Then Dom left, and then my ass was over here for like another 2 games. And I'm like, and after I wrapped it up and I was in a quiet space thinking to myself in my own thoughts, I was like, and Dom set me. I was set up they knew what they was doing. Like, we'll just start doing a little college football next. Start doing a little college football. We'll promote over here, do that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. We got a guy Mendoza out here dropping these great fire prospects to go out there and check if you're not following him. Oh my word, 88 over there on Twitter. He's doing that. Don's been doing the work. O's been doing the work. And then, boy, y'all just needle me just enough. It didn't take much. Fair. It didn't take much. But y'all just kind of laid. You remember old dadgum? What old Parcells say?
Dadgum. You definitely sound like an old dad now. Dadgum.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Dadgummit. Well, Spoon used up all the cuss words for this show, so I'm trying to make sure we stay monetized this round. Okay, I can't use another cuss word. But Bill Parcells will tell you, don't fall for the cheese, right? You hang the little mouse traps around, don't fall for the cheese. Y'all got me with the cheese. Y'all sure did. You suckers, you. Good job, Domino. Good job.
Gotcha. Our master plan. No, we just, we love doing the show. It's just a lot of fun. Like we genuinely enjoy doing this together. If there were 5 of you guys,
and we like each other.
We do.
We like each other too. We talk.
If there were 5 of you in the chat, we would be thrilled to have 5 of you. We had well over 120 in the chat, so really appreciate you guys rocking with us. If you haven't done so, please click like. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps our show out. If you enjoy it, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, converse with us. We all like having dialogue. We're very active in that realm. So please reach out to us. We'd love to, pick that dialogue up. But what a great first show to start the season out, man. We got to talk Cowboys-Giants, NFC rivalry. We got to talk about the beginning of potentially a new era for the Cowboys. We got to talk with Skywalker Steele, a friend of all of us for a long time. Got to have him for the first time. Authentic is one of the dudes. If you are not, if you've never heard from him before, and today's your first time, check him out, man. He's a cool dude. He's honest. He's transparent. He says it how it is, right or wrong. How the other fans may feel about him. He just knows his football. So really excited to have him on for the first time, and I'm sure we'll reconnect with him as the season goes on. But definitely check out our guests. They spent over an hour. We asked them for 30 minutes, and they were more than happy to rock with us. So in the chat too, like Nick said, it's 2 hours and 25 minutes, and you guys have been here the entire time. So we really appreciate you guys too.
Hey, and real quick programming alert, not just, come rock with us, with me over there, Orlando Sunday, but we start next week on Wednesdays. So we'll start doing, the recap show and stuff. So Wednesday, same time though, 8:30. We're not changing the time slot though. We know we got y'all comfortable with the time slot at 8:30 p.m. We've reached out. We've talked to a lot of y'all. Y'all lock us in at 8:30. So we will be at 8:30 on Wednesdays to recap. And then Fridays, and then we'll kind of have the guests and different things as if y'all were rocking with us last year with the Freestyle Fridays, and that's what you'll see from us on Friday. So get ramped up because we're coming back at y'all starting on Wednesdays next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Hour each. Those shows will be about an hour each instead of a 2-hour show. So
not this 2.5 hour marathon.
Shout out to producer Jay for the new intro video.
Yes.
You know what? Maybe we should end the. Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what. For those that maybe didn't get here at the beginning, everybody have a great, fantastic weekend. And the way we'll end the show tonight, we'll run the new intro for the 2023 season show at TC. Wrench Gang in the building. Enjoy your weekend. Go Cowboys. And if you missed the new intro for season 5, I'm dropping it on y'all right about now.
BJ Nix, are you here?
Present.
Spoony, Timothy Spoony.
Present, sir.
Margaret and Mary. Do we have a Margaret and Mary?
Yes. Cool. And the margaritas.
Right. We're ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
And the Cowboys have it. It's Parsons on top of it.